A 06-00009, our 208th interview overall. It is April the 28th, 2006, and we're at the home of Rod Compton in Anderson, Indiana. And first of all, I'd like to thank you for allowing us to come and do this interview.
Okay.
And, it's a beautiful home. Really,
Thank
like
you.
this. Let's start out with the basics. What is your full name?
Rodney Elmer Compton.
Okay. Were you named after somebody in the family?
My middle name was after my uncle,
Okay.
my dad's brother, and other than that, I don't think so. But
All right. And your date of birth?
it's 1946.
Okay. And what was your rank at discharge?
Sergeant.
Okay. Well, Sergeant Compton,
Yes.
where were you born?
I was born near Greensburg, Kentucky,
Okay.
in my grandmother's house.
Oh, now.
Mm-hmm.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah. I take it your mother was there at the time?
Yes,
Okay.
I think so.
Okay. Well, what was her name?
Golda Compton.
Okay. And her maiden name?
Maiden name was Lobb.
Lobb? How you spell it?
L-O-B-B.
L-O-B-B. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And is she still alive?
No, she passed away this past January.
Oh, okay.
Mm-hmm.
What would you tell folks about her? What was she like?
Oh, she was a sweet lady. She stayed home with all of us kids. There was 5 of us. She stayed home with us most of the time. My younger brother and sister got older, the last ones, she started working, but she stayed home with us most of the time, and was a great mother, husband, or a wife, and just a great housekeeper. She liked to sew. She made quilts. She made all of us kids and grandkids quilts.
Oh, neat.
She was a great cook. She liked to do that. Can't think. She just liked housework and things. She never bothered her. She enjoyed it.
Do you still have that quilt?
Yes, I do. It's on our bed.
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
That's quite a treasure then.
That's one of my most treasured things. It really is.
I can imagine.
Mm-hmm.
And what about your father? What was his name?
His name, Paul Compton, and Mom and Dad were both from Kentucky, and he was born on a farm, and he went in the Army, I think, just after they got married, I think, and then that was just before the war started, and he was in until, I think, 45. And in fact, he stayed overseas till after the war was over.
It's kind of Herschel's story, because Herschel's dad got pulled in just not too long after they were married.
And so my oldest brother was born just before he left to go overseas.
Okay.
In February of '42, and then he left to go overseas later that year. And so he was gone a long time, and then he come back, and they farmed and lived close to my grandparents, and I had an uncle, his brother, that lived in Alexandria up here.
Okay.
So he come up here and was helping someone farm, and then got on one of the factories and did that for a while, and we stayed up here. I think we moved up here in '49. Okay. And so Dad worked at Guide and retired from Guide. He's always was proud of being in the military, and he later in his life he got to go to some reunions of the 1st Armored. He was in the 1st Armored Division, and so he got to go to some reunions and see some of his old friends. So, and that was really a joy for him. Him and Mom got a lot out of that going to those, and so he's in a nursing home now. Has a feed tube, but his mind's still pretty good, and I see him, almost every day. So he's doing pretty well.
Well, did he ever talk much about it?
He did some, yes, he did. I in fact, when I was younger, I used to love to hear him tell stories. He had a lot of stories, some fun, that he had, and then some that was pretty tough on him, and. I think it affected his life, being gone that long, and all the things that happened to him. Yeah. And it had a big effect on his life, I think, and the way he thought about things. So he talked about them quite a bit, and I just grew up being proud of him, you know, for doing that. Really did.
Well, there's your first million, having good parents.
Yeah. Yeah. They were married 65 or 66. Let's see. They were married in 1940. So they were married over 65 years when
Wow.
Mom passed away.
How old was she when?
She was 85.
85. That's pretty good.
And Dad's 86 now. So.
Well, you mentioned 5 children.
Yes.
What are their names and a little something about
Okay.
each one?
I have an older brother, Randall, and he, after he graduated from high school, he joined the Air Force, and when he got out in '64, he settled out in California. He was in the Air Police in the Air Force, and he got on the police force at Riverside, California.
Okay.
And he retired from there in, I think, the mid-'90s. And then he moved back here for a while. And then he sold out, bought a motorhome, and traveled. Him and his wife traveled for about 3 years, and now they're living in New Mexico now.
Okay.
And he has a son, Jeff, and he's married and got, I think, two children. And then I'm next, and my next younger brother is Reed. He lives in Muncie. He went to Ball State. He's an accountant at a, can't remember the name of it in Muncie. It's a lab, pathology lab or something like that. And he's an accountant for them, and he's married and has 1 child. His wife's Debbie. His son is Josh. He just is going to graduate from Ball State about a week or 2. And my next younger is my sister, Rosemary, and she is actually works at she's a nurse at the nursing home where Dad is.
Oh, okay.
So that's worked out real well.
Yeah, that's great.
And she has 3 children, boy and 2 girls, and it's John and Ashley and Jenny, and she has 4 grandchildren. So, and then my youngest is Rick. He lives in Rosemary lives in Elwood. Rick lives in Elwood. He's married. His wife's Helen. He doesn't have any children. They both work at Red Goal.
Okay.
So, and he lives in Elwood. So.
It's amazing how that's grown up over
Yes.
the years at Red Gold.
Mhm.
That's,
Yes.
give a lot of credit to
Yeah.
Mr. Reichert for
Yes.
establishing
He's
that.
a very good businessman, and well, everything I hear about him, he's great to work for.
Yeah.
You know, it's a good company.
So, where did you actually grow up?
Well, we moved up into Indiana when I was about 3, I think.
Okay.
And we actually, the first place we lived at was a house just outside of Kilbuck Park, the golf course on the
Okay.
north side. There was a big house there, and we lived in the upstairs, rented off the owners, and Dad helped him farm. We lived there, I think, maybe a year, and then we moved to Frankton, and he helped someone farm there and worked at the factory. And we grew up in Frankton, so we lived in a couple different houses, but Dad ended up building a house in 1958, and lived there till they went to the nursing home.
So, how old were you when you made the move to Frankton?
I was about 4, I think.
Okay. So you don't really remember much about...
Don't remember.
Kilbuck?
I can just barely remember that other house near Kilbuck,
Yeah.
just little bits, and then, but I remember the farmhouse in Frankton, and then the house he built. You know.
Now, where was the house in Frankton? Whereabouts?
The first house is not there anymore. It was on what was called Moss Island Road. It's 500 West.
Okay.
Just as you're going into Frankton from the south, you cross where the old railroad tracks used to be.
Right.
And then right up, as you go up on your right, there's a woods there, and it was set just at the end of that woods.
Okay.
And there's a different house there now. It was torn down, and now the guy he rented off of, his granddaughter has a house there now.
All right.
And then the house we moved to was just up a little bit and a block west of that house.
So you kind of grew up out in
yeah.
the county.
Yeah, it was. That was first house was sort of out in the country then.
Yeah.
And the other house was just at the very edge of town. That was
Yeah.
about the last street when we built that house.
What do you remember about growing up in that
Oh,
area?
it was great growing up in Frankton because, you know, we could walk downtown or ride our bikes or, you know, and I liked play Little League baseball and stuff like that. And our summers, you know, we were just always on our bikes and just, you know,
Yeah.
playing out and everything. I really enjoyed growing up in Frankton.
So what position did you play in Little League?
Well, I pitched, played first base and center field and a little bit of everything, but pitched quite a bit in Little League.
Now, do you remember any of your coaches?
Yes, I had Little League. I had John Owens, and I don't know where he is now. I haven't seen him for probably since I was a kid. I think he moved away. And see, I'm trying to think. Claude Eden was my coach in Babe Ruth.
Mm-hmm.
He's passed away now, but he actually worked out at Guide for a long time too. He was a welder out there. But I enjoyed playing baseball, and some of the kids I played with are still around.
Yeah.
So we talk about that stuff. So
I can imagine that trick-or-treating would have been fun at that time in
yeah.
that size of a town.
I didn't do a lot of it. I did a little. Halloween was never my thing. I just never liked it very well. I don't know why, but I did a little bit of it. But it's that just wasn't my thing, I guess. I don't know. Never liked Halloween that much. I'm a little different than most kids were, I guess.
Oh, we'd just go for blocks and blocks.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But we knew most of the neighbors, you know. It's probably a little different than it is now. I think we knew most of the people, most of them in town, really, you know.
When you were growing up, did you have any childhood heroes? For some fellows, it was baseball players, or it might have been a scoutmaster, or somebody in the church, somebody in the family, or in town.
Well, I loved baseball when I was a kid, and I liked the Dodgers, and I liked Duke Snyder and Roy Campanella and Sandy Koufax. That was some of my favorites. Don Newcomb. And my dad was always a hero to me because all the military stories he would tell me. And my uncle that lived in L.A., called him Uncle Al.
Yeah.
His name was Elmer, but he went by Al a lot. And he was a great guy. He was a lot of fun to go visit. We would go there and stay all night sometimes. And he was a funny guy, but a really great guy. And he was always a hero to me too.
That's good.
So,
That's good. There's so many guys that don't have fathers they can look up to as heroes. And it's a priceless gift if you can get it.
Yeah. Him and Dad both, to me, they were type of guys that if they were dealt sort of a tough hand or something, they would just deal with it and go on and not let it bother them. Yeah. And I think that generation was good at that, and I hope our other generations coming up can be like that more. I'm not so sure, but that's one thing I feel them. They, you know, if things got tough, they just dealt with it and went on and made the best of it, and you know, didn't let it bother them. Yeah. That's what I would want to be like.
Do you have any special chores that were yours?
Well, when we lived in the farmhouse, we had I can remember when we first lived there, we had to go outside and get the water. So we had a wash house like thing, and the pump was out there. I'd do stuff like that, and you know, clean outside, mow. I mowed yards a lot when I was a kid. Yeah.
Power lawnmower or the old rotary?
I did both. When I got a little bigger, we usually had a power mower, but when I was small, we had the old reel. Yeah. And I was usually so short that it was hard for me because I had to push, and it was almost like this. So I remember that.
You get the handle down where you could hit it, the blade wasn't touching anything.
Yeah. But then when I got older, we moved in the other house. And I didn't have like farm chores, but I always mowed a lot and you know, took out the trash and did all kinds of things like that, and just whatever they asked me to do. They always had me doing, you know, there was something that I could do to. They'd give me a little bit of money for maybe or something, but it was always some kind of chores.
Have any jobs outside the home, of paper route or something like that?
My brother had a paper route, and I helped him some. I never had my own, but I mowed a lot until I got, I think I was 15. There was a Curtin's machine shop in Frankton, and I got on there, and I did odd jobs for him, mowed and did maintenance, sort of just maintenance type stuff until I turned 16. And then when I turned 16, he let me go in and work in the shop, run drill presses and lathes, mills, things like that. Sort of taught me to do that. So I worked there my last 2 years in high school, after school and Saturdays. So
for that kind of training, you should have paid him.
Yeah, really.
That's good schooling now.
It was. And that's I ended up getting an apprenticeship at Guide. So that I think that was one reason I was able to do that.
Yeah. Remember how much he paid you?
I think he started me at $1.25 an hour then.
Pretty
I think
good.
that was minimum wage at a place like that then. Yeah. But that was a lot to me then.
That's big money.
Yes, it was. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So did you go to school at the Frankton schools?
Yes. Actually, I started at Leach.
Okay.
It was school. It was out of the Frankton system, but it was out in the country. And I went there for 8 years, and then high school in Frankton.
Okay. Mm-hmm. All right. Do you remember any of your teachers?
Oh, yeah. I remember a lot of them. I probably remember about almost all of them. First grade, I had Mrs. Hester. Second was Mrs. Taylor. You probably remember her. Elizabeth Wright's mom. I think third grade I had Mrs. Redmond, and I think also fourth. Fifth I had Mrs. Etchison. Then the 6th, 7th, and 8th I had several because we started like junior high type. And I had Mr. Winland for a coach. All his sons I think are coaches around the Anderson area now. And let's see, can't remember too many of the others. And then in high school, I had Muff Davis, Paul Davis. They were both coaches and teachers. I had a Mrs. Waymeyer that was one of my favorite math teachers, probably. She was really good. And that's Mr. French was shop and drawing teacher.
Same fellow that lives in LaPel?
Yes.
Oh,
he was he taught at Frankton when I graduated in '65, and then he was our class sponsor. And then my wife graduated from LaPel in '69, and by then he had moved over there, and he was her class sponsor over
Nice
LaPel.
guy.
Yeah.
Nice guy.
Yeah, I liked him.
Yeah. If you don't like Mr. French, there's something wrong with you. That's the
And then later, after we got married, we went to church in LaPel for a while, and he was there, and so we got to meet up with him again, and he's I still see him every now and then.
Now, did your family go to church? Your mom and dad?
They went to the Church of Christ in Ellick.
Okay.
And we went there. It wasn't real active, but they went, part of the time. And they seemed like they would change pastors several times, and sometimes they would be more active than others. Depends on the pastor sometimes. But I grew up in the Church of Christ, and I remember going over to Ellick. They had a building over there then. It was, I'm not sure if it's still there or not. I think it was, it had used to been a house, big house. And so that's, after I got married, we go to the United Methodist Church now, and that's where we still belong. And we went to LaPel for a while.
You happen to know Mark Helm?
Yes, I do.
Good friend of mine. Grew
Yes.
up with him.
Yes. He's, in fact, we went over there to fish fry the other night at Ford Street. Our pastor, Gary Elston's good friends with him.
Okay.
And in fact, Mark's dad is the one that got our pastor in the ministry.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
Okay.
Edwin.
Oh, yeah. We interviewed him before he got sick.
Edwin?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah.
And,
Great guy.
Oh, he was a great mentor to me as I
Yeah.
was growing up.
That's what Gary Elston said. He said he was a wonderful mentor to him.
Well, that's neat. That's
Yeah.
an interesting connection.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, you were in school and you were involved in sports, I take it?
I was in junior high. When I got to high school, I played ball in Little League in Babe Ruth, but when I got to high school, I wasn't involved in sports anymore.
Okay.
Like I say, the last 2 years I worked after school and on Saturdays, and I was in math club, and I always liked math and stuff like that. And I was in high Y. I played intramural basketball some with the high Y club, and trying to think. Wasn't super active in high school like some of them were. A lot of clubs, but I enjoyed it.
Did you really know what you wanted to do after high school? Did you want to go into the machine shop?
Yes, that's.
Work?
I had a teacher that wanted me to go to GMI, and so I went up and talked to someone about it. And after talking to me, he said, "Well, we can apply for it, but he said you may be more adapted to apprenticeship." So I did hire in at Guide about that fall after I graduated, and took a test and was hired right away as an apprentice. So
That's great.
so and I really enjoyed working. I was machine repairman for about 15 years, and then a special machine builder for a little longer than that. So and I really enjoyed it. I never minded going to work or anything. I loved the
great.
job.
Which job did you like best?
I think I liked special machine building the best
Yeah.
because I would get the prints. I could go order the steel, make all the parts, assemble it, get it running, troubleshoot it, just from the print till it was running. And I really enjoyed that.
It's neat to be able to look at something and say,
Yeah.
I made that.
Yeah, it is. I really enjoyed that job.
Hey, selling hamburgers all day, you can't really
No.
point to one and say, I
no.
made that.
No, but I always liked my job. I never bothered me to go to work.
Wow.
So
That's your second million, having a job you enjoyed.
yeah,
Yeah.
that's right.
I was going to ask you. Okay, so you graduated
1965.
65? Okay.
Mhm.
And so that would have put you about sophomore when Kennedy was killed?
Yes.
All right.
Well, I think that was the fall of my junior year.
Okay. Well,
Yeah.
junior.
60.
How'd you hear about that?
I was in study hall in the library. I remember it, and it was that's what I think it was right after lunch, and I saw a commotion up where the teacher was, and then they announced that President Kennedy had been shot. They didn't know that he was dead, and then they started putting over the loudspeaker the radio of it, and so then we heard. I think my next class was English, and I think that's when I actually heard about it, that he had died.
Yeah.
But I'll never forget that. And I'll think we had a reunion this year of my class, and we all talked about that we all still remember where we were and all about it. That's just something we'll never forget.
What do you remember about those next couple of days?
Just watching. We watched it on TV a lot, and we were just fixed at watching. Didn't want to miss anything. And all the when he got back to Washington and all the ceremonial things, and the funeral, and then the thing with Ruby and Oswald, we were just fixed on TV.
Yeah.
TV was not that big back then. I mean, we only had probably 3 or 4 channels, I think. But that weekend, we watched TV the whole weekend. I remember that.
I tell people that the whole world has kind of turned black and white for a few days.
Yeah.
because you didn't see anything except that TV screen, what was going on, and
Yeah.
that was so bizarre.
That's what I remember about that.
You're at that right edge. You would have remembered some of the Cold War.
Yes.
Thing. What would you tell folks about that?
Oh, that's I guess you was always fearful because you heard about some people building bomb shelters and things. I mean, we never did, but you were always fearful, and that's when you started seeing satellites go over. Yeah. I remember going out at night and watching them. They'd tell you about what time it was going to come up, and we'd watch it all the way up till you couldn't see it anymore. I remember doing that, and I guess you just thought about it, every now and then. It was always on your mind, back of your mind probably, that, I think when you're that age, you think, well, it might happen, but you're invincible, so, you're not going to, that's not going to bother me, But
remember the yellow and black signs for the air raid shelters?
Yes. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Boy,
And
wouldn't have helped a bit, would it?
no, I don't think so.
But it sure made us feel good to know we had we could go in that building.
Yeah.
As long as you put your hands over your head, you were going to be all right.
Yeah, that's what they teach in school. Just get down under your desk and put your hand over your head.
Did they ever try to sell you those seeds that had been irradiated at Oak Ridge?
I don't remember that.
I remember them trying to sell us those, and they said, "Oh, the plants will grow way tall."
Yeah.
And
No, I don't remember that.
if we'd eaten that stuff, we'd all died for sure. I think it was a test on.
Okay. Yeah.
Wow. So you get out, 65. Vietnam was just starting to heat up a little bit then.
Mm-hmm.
Did you give it much thought?
Some, but not a whole lot. I hired in at Guide in the fall of '65.
Okay.
Like say on production for a couple months, and then within a month I took that test, and then I started, and I think I started my apprenticeship in January of '66. So, it was really heating up then. That was '66, and I think I got a draft notice to take a physical, and then I started to take notice of it. And so went and took a physical, and just had the feeling that soon something was gonna come, And I had started my apprenticeship, and I was going to school, and I don't remember, it was probably 1st of April. I got my notice that I was going to report for duty in May, and so I went to my teacher at the apprentice school and told him that I was going to have to leave probably a couple weeks before the semester was over. So he helped me, and I got to finish that first semester, my 2 classes. I had 2 different teachers and 2 classes, and I got everything done before we left. And
that was nice of him.
So, yeah, that was real nice.
Yeah, what was the teacher's name?
I don't remember that teacher's name.
Well, you sure remember what he did, though.
Yeah. There was 2 classes and 2 different teachers, and they both did it.
Yeah.
And so I got to finish the class, and went in May 18th to the Army then.
Now, did you go ahead and enlist, or just follow the draft?
No, I just followed the draft then.
Okay. Yeah. For your Army physical, was that down at the AFI Center on
Indianapolis
on Washington Street?
I think that's where it was. It was down pretty close to downtown area there.
Yeah. Old building, scarier than the war
real
itself.
old building. I'd been to Indianapolis before, but never by myself, I don't think, and didn't have any idea where it was. If I'd have had to find one way home, I don't know if I could have done it or not. Yeah, it's been all day down there. You was just, I think they fed you one meal.
Yeah.
You was down there all day, and you was wore out when you got home.
Went down to the Greyhound bus depot to get a meal.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So you did a physical. They sent you home, and then they called you out?
I think the physical was in February or March, something like that. And then in April, I think I got the notice.
All right. So take me down the path. Where'd you go?
Okay, I went in May 18th. I remember my mom and dad taking me to the Anderson bus station or whatever it was to leave, and as I look back, it was probably tougher on them than it was me. But so they took us down to Indianapolis to the induction station, and we spent, I think it was about all day down there again, doing paperwork and all that kind of stuff. And then late that afternoon, we got on a bus and went to Fort Knox, Kentucky, at the reception station.
Mm-hmm.
And
that's a polite term, isn't it?
Yeah, and so usually that you're there, I think they said 5 days or so.
Yeah.
So they were issuing uniforms, giving shots, and all that kind of stuff. Well, after about 8 or 9 days, there was several of us that were still there. I went in with several guys from the Anderson area, Indianapolis area, like that, and a lot of us were still there after 9 days.
Huh.
And we figured, we saw other people coming and going, and so then they said, okay, you guys, in the morning, you're going to get on a bus, and we went to Fort Riley, Kansas.
Oh, boy.
And that was not one of the regular basic training stations. So, come to find out, they were starting they were reactivating a division there, infantry division, to train together and then send to Vietnam. Mm. So it was probably about 9 days later from the time we went in. We got to Fort Riley, Kansas, and I went to a basic training unit. It was they actually had the units they were going to have. This was actually an artillery unit.
Okay.
It was the 1st of the 84th Artillery Battalion, I remember. And we took our basic training there. It was Camp Funkston where we were at.
Funkston?
Funkston. I think it was Function, I think it is.
I've heard of that one.
Funkston, the way they pronounced it.
And where was that?
It was at Fort Riley, Kansas.
It was at Riley?
They had
Okay.
different camps at Fort Riley.
Okay.
This was they had the old wooden barracks, 2-story barracks, where I was at. And so it was 1st of the 84th Artillery Battalion, and we took our basic training there. I think it was 8 weeks. And then when basic was over, part of us, they left in that artillery unit. Part of us, they shipped up to Custer Hill, they called it. That was another camp, and into an infantry unit. And there I went to the 3rd of the 47th Infantry. And we took our advanced individual training there. I was in Delta Company there. And we still had several of us from Anderson area there. Okay. I don't know how many, but there were several.
Do you
of
remember
us.
some of the fellows?
Mike Ritchie, he probably knows him. We were in the same class at the apprentice school. We'd started our apprenticeship the same day, I think. And then we got drafted the same day, and we were still together. And there were several. Bill Emmel, he worked at Guide, and he was there. Lanny Gardner from Pendleton was there. Steve Lawyer from Anderson was there. Several from Indianapolis. Mike McGuire. Danny Miller. Guy named Pugh, can't remember his first name. And Harold Mundy. There was a lot of us there.
Good memory.
Uh-huh. And so we went to Delta Company, and we took our advanced individual training, and then they decided to do away with Delta Company and just have 3 rifle companies in that battalion. Okay. So some of us went to C Company, some of us went to B Company, and some of us went to A Company. I went to B Company in the 3rd of 47th. And Bill Emmel went with me, and Mike Ritchie went to C Company, I think. Steve Lawyer, he was another one, he went to A Company. But we were still in the same battalion, saw each other quite a bit. So we did our basic unit training and our advanced unit training there. By now, it's probably 1st of December, long in there. And by the time we finished, it was about the middle of December. They give us 2 weeks leave and had to be back, I remember, just before New Year's Day. We had to be back on like 28th or 29th. And then in January, we were going to ship out overseas.
I can't imagine which would be worse, Fort Riley in August or Fort Riley in December.
Neither one was real well. I got to Fort Riley in by the 1st of June, a little before the 1st of June.
Yeah.
So we took basic training June and July.
Okay.
It was hot.
Oh.
The advanced individual training was August and September. It was still hot. Then it got pretty nice, you know, in September, October, along in there. And then November it started to get sort of cold. It was, the wind out there was pretty unbearable in the wintertime.
Yeah, I bet.
Yeah. So thankfully, the worst part of the winter, we were heading out. But, yeah.
What was basic like?
Oh, you know, I'd heard about it from my dad and some of them, but, you know, it was hard, but I sort of enjoyed it.
Yeah.
You know, I was 19 years old, and we actually had a lot of fun doing it too. I mean, it was hard, but it was, and probably was, when I got out of that, I was probably in the best shape I'd ever been in my life. I was only about, I think I was less than 120 pounds when I went in. And I was probably 130 pounds when I got out of basic.
Oh, really?
And it was,
wow,
you know, wasn't any fat on me then.
Fed's pretty good. I mean,
yeah, we did. I always liked the food okay.
Yeah.
It was good, but, you know, my mom always, I would usually eat about anything she put on the plate, and I never minded Army food. I didn't really mind Army life. I sort of liked it. And I was single then, so, you know.
Yeah. I've heard all kinds of descriptions of how the drill instructors were, and some guys say, "Oh, they were really tough," and other guys say they were really nice. And
they were, but the drill instructor I had for basic was a guy who wasn't much bigger than me. He was about 5'8" and weighed about 150. He was a little black guy, and he could run all day. I mean, he was really athletic type. And he was tough, but he was sort of funny too, and so we had a good time with him. You know, he had a good time with us, and it never, you know, I guess you'd be mad at him sometimes when you was running up a big hill or something, but I have good memories of it, really.
That's your third million, having a drill instructor that took good care of. Because I've heard some fellas that lost some money on that.
Yeah.
So from Fort Riley, did you go home on leave? Or?
We went home on leave in December.
Okay.
Come home for 2 weeks. We had Christmas, and you know, that was sort of tough to leave there. I remember one story. Mike Ritchie, one of the other guys, he and I, our parents took us down to the airport. I think we all went in the same vehicle, and we got down there, and it was snowing to beat the band that morning, and so we had to rush to catch our flight. And when we got there a little bit late, and Mike and I had to run up there and try to get into the gate, and so we tried to say goodbye real quick to our parents and then run up there, and it was a bad storm, and we got on the plane, and then they said, you know, we're not going to be able to take off for a while, so we come back out, and our parents had already left, so we didn't get to see them. So I still remember that. You know,
that had to be a
tough.
Christmas that really stuck in your mind.
Yes. Yeah.
There had to have been this level of tension there.
Yeah.
Your mom worried, your dad.
You know, I never realized it until now that I'm an adult. I had sons go overseas, and I know how my parents felt then. You know, when you're 19 or 20, you don't you don't think about that as much.
Yeah.
And now I realize how hard it was on my mom and dad. You know, I knew it was, but I just didn't hit me until it has in the last few years. And I remember I had a let's see, that would have been December of '66. So my sister was about 8 and my brother 6. So it was sort of hard for them to understand, you know, really what was going on, because it was Christmas for them, you know, and, you know, 6 and 8-year-old Christmas is a big deal. And so they probably didn't really understand everything that was going on, you know, but it was sort of emotional. Christmas was.
I can imagine.
Mm-hmm.
I can imagine. Wow. So you get on the plane, leaving a snowstorm, heading for...
Well, yeah, that was a plane going back to get to Fort Riley.
Okay.
We were there, it was probably a couple weeks before we left. In fact, we left either the 8th or 9th of January. We got everything packed. They had been packing ahead, and they had train loads of equipment going to the coast, then going to get on a ship. Then I think either the 8th or 9th, probably the 9th, we left on a plane and flew to Travis Air Force Base in California. And I remember something about that. We got in a thunderstorm, and all of a sudden all the lights in the plane went off, and it dropped about 200 feet.
Wow.
But we made it. I remember that too.
Stop your heart.
That's the worst plane flight I ever had, in a sense, you know. I mean, so, and that was one of the first.
On a plane that much
I hadn't been on a plane that much.
Are they supposed to do this?
Yeah. So anyway, we flew to Travis Air Force Base. They had bus meet us there, and we went to the port there at San Francisco. It was about it was after midnight, and they took us there, and then we got on a ship, the USS General John Pope.
Oh, no kidding! Really?
That was
Pope?
that was the ship. He was
Holy smokes.
he was a Civil War general, I believe.
Yeah. I think that's when they built the ship too.
Well, it was probably old. It was a troop ship.
Yeah.
I think it'd been converted. I don't know if what it was, but it was a troop ship then. And we got on there and left the next morning, which I think was January 10th, because I think that's when we left, January 10th. And headed out, went under the Golden Gate Bridge. I remember that. Went past Alcatraz, all that. And went out to the ocean. Took us 18 days to get there. We made a stop in Okinawa for supplies, I think, or something.
That's kind of unusual. So most of the guys going over went
that's one thing about most of the guys that were in Vietnam were probably replacements.
Okay.
They went over individually, like, you know, not, and we trained as they reactivated the 9th Division. We trained from 1st of June until December as a unit. The whole division trained there at Fort Riley. And then there was an advance party. Some of them left in December to go over there, a few. And then the main, I think there was some of them flew over, but then the main body went over on the ship in January. It took us 18 days. So.
What'd you think of that? I mean,
well, you know,
biggest body of water in Frankton is what?
Yeah,
creek?
yeah. It was, you know, before long you couldn't see anything but water.
Yeah.
And I couldn't believe how blue it was out in when you get out into the ocean.
Yeah.
I mean, you think, you know, you always said blue is the ocean, but I never thought about it till then. It really looks blue when you get out in there. And I didn't mind that either. A few of the guys got a little bit sick and stuff, but it was pretty good. We had PT, physical training, while I was there, and did stuff like that, and did a few classes, you know, on our weapons and stuff, because we trained with an M14 about the whole time, and then got M16s just before we left. So we hadn't done much with them, so they give us some more training, you know, with exactly what we'd be using and everything.
So what was your thoughts between the M14 and the M16?
Well, we were excited to get it. We were used to the 14.
Yeah.
The M16 was a lot lighter weight and had a little more firepower.
Yeah.
So at that time, we were glad. There was some issues about it jamming. You had to keep it really clean. You had to really work to keep it clean, where the M14 would have fired about any time probably. But so that was an issue we learned later. But at that time, we were glad to get them. Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I heard fellows said that they had some troubles with.
Yeah, you had to really keep them clean, and I was by then I was in what they call acting corporal.
Okay.
They would see. This was different than a lot of units. Most units, an E7 sergeant first class would have been a platoon sergeant.
Mm-hmm.
Well, they got this unit together, and there was a lot of draftees and a lot of young people in them. They were short on NCOs quite a bit. So where your platoon sergeant would have been an E7, your squad leader would have been a E6, should have been, and then your team leaders in the squad would have been E5s.
Okay.
Well, they didn't have enough, so
Yeah.
I was actually a team leader by the end and acting corporal. I was still PFC, I think, with my rank, but at that, I might make corporal going over there. I can't remember. But so there was a lot of us young ones that were in leadership roles that were beyond, you know, what we should have been in a regular Army situation, because they speeded it up. Because I've went to reunions since and talked to some of the higher officers, and they said our training was close to a year and a half training, squelched into about 7 months or so.
Got you going pretty quick, didn't it?
So yeah, but that's what they had to do. So, and as we go on, I'll tell you some of the stories that
Okay.
the higher officers said. But
So you stopped in Okinawa. How long were you in Okinawa?
I think just overnight. They did let us off ship for a while one afternoon, you know,
Okay.
just to go in. I don't remember a lot about it because we weren't. I think they let us off for like 2 hours or 3 hours,
Right.
and we were at a place where there was a base there, naval base, I think, so we could go. And there was a little village right there.
Okay.
But don't remember much about it. We weren't off very long or anything.
And from there?
One story about the ship going over.
Okay.
After that, a couple days later, one of the men jumped overboard. So they had to stop the ship, and they circled this area for like, I don't know if it was a law that they had to do it for so many hours,
Huh.
because they couldn't find him. They knew he probably could not make it jumping overboard
Yeah.
because of the getting sucked under. But I think they're supposed to stay circling for so many hours, so we did that. Because I woke up at night, and you could tell the ship wasn't moving normal like it
Yeah.
was, you know, because it stopped for a while, and that's what we found out later. So that's just sort of a side story.
Just
But
went crazy and went over the side.
I guess, yeah. I'd heard a lot of rumors. I don't know if he did drugs or something. I never did. I was probably a naive 19, 20-year-old because I never seen any drugs, didn't know anything about them. And at that time, I think later on, years later, I think it was a lot worse than it was when I was in.
Yeah.
But I never, maybe I was naive, but I never really seen any. So.
Just as lucky.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, just hitting the water from that distance
Oh yeah, I'm sure.
could have
Yeah.
killed him right there.
Because I used to get up on front of the ship, and it would go way up and down, and it'd move 10, 15 feet, seemed like,
Yeah.
up and down. So it was a long way down there. Yeah.
It sounded like a pretty peaceful trip all the way over.
Yeah, I'd never done anything like that, so
Yeah.
it was sort of neat for me, I
Yeah.
guess.
Well, you lucked out on the weather.
Yeah.
What watch the dolphins or anything?
You know, I think sometimes we would see some big fish out there and stuff, but I don't remember a lot about it. But it was a sort of a, like I say, we did some training and did some PT, but we did have, I mean, there wasn't that much for us to do.
Yeah.
There was several thousand men on the ship, so, you know, they couldn't keep us all busy all the time. So we had a lot of free time, you know, play euchre and things like that, and just walk the deck and stuff. So it was a pretty peaceful trip, yeah.
So you, where'd you go from there?
Okay, we landed at Vung Tau in Vietnam. That was a port there. Okay. And it was in daytime, I think, when we got there, yeah. And you know, we didn't know what we was going to, here we were going to a war nation, you know, war-torn nation. And we didn't know if it was, when we got off, if there was going to be firing. You know, we didn't know anything. Well, we got there, and when we started to get off, they had the 9th Division band there and all kinds of stuff like that. Here we all walk off. Didn't have any ammo, you know. I mean, we had ammo, but couldn't load our weapons or anything. So, you know, learned something there.
Singers and dancers.
Yeah. And we got on trucks and drove inland to our division base camp. Was called Camp Bearcat.
Okay.
And it was not too far from Saigon, probably within 20 miles, I'd say, of Saigon.
Okay.
And went there and found our areas. We first several days getting there, we had to put our tents up, and we had like platoon-sized tents. And we had to fill a lot of sandbags, put in them, put on the sides and things like that. So first 2 or 3 weeks was a lot of that kind of stuff, just, you know, getting settled into the area and stuff. And then within probably a couple of weeks, they had us going out of the base camp a little ways into, you know, just sort of getting our feet wet into getting used to going out on some patrols and things, and going out and setting up little base camps outside. And, you know, it was probably a pretty secure area as I think back, because we were real green, and, you know, they were just trying to get us acclimated to everything and getting used to being there.
What was your impression of Vietnam at that point?
Hot. Yeah. Very hot. And dry. It was dry at that time. Trying to think when it started raining 2 or 3 months later, but it was hot and dry, very hot, and had a unique smell to it. Most of the places around the villages and stuff. Yeah. But it was a lot of different. The way things looked, there was like fields with real tall grass and stuff. There was a few rice paddies up in that area, not too many. There was actually there was rubber plantations around there with trees, and then there were some woodsy places and grassy areas and just stuff like that. But we didn't stay up there too long. Can't remember the timelines on some of that, especially the first times, but
when you send you out on those early patrols, you go out by truck or what?
Sometimes we'd go out by truck. If it wasn't too far, we would walk.
Okay.
But usually by truck, maybe to a base camp, little camp they'd set out there, and they'd have some artillery out there to cover us. And then we'd go out on small patrols, squad size or platoon size from there. Yeah. And actually, as I look back, that's sort of training too. I'm sure it was a pretty secure area. Yeah. Never seen much out there, you know. And we did that for just a few weeks, probably, into February. We found out then we were in the 2nd Brigade, our battalion was. It was the 3rd and 4th of the 47th. That's 2 battalions. And then I think it was the 3rd of the 60th Battalion. Those 3 battalions made up the 2nd Brigade. And we were going to be a mobile riverine force brigade. We were going to work with the Navy, and some of us might be living on ships, barrack ships part of the time. So they sent us to an area called the Runsat Zone, and it was pretty close to the coast and south of Saigon area. And a lot of rivers and streams went all through there. It's sort of a swampy type area. And we did some training in that area. And so we learned that we were going to be wet a lot. And I think we started training there in February. One of the first nights we were out, come nighttime, and we were going to set up like we would set up at night as like an ambush, not an ambush, but just a perimeter.
Right. And
so it was scraggly, swampy type trees and streams all over the place and everything. We set up on this point. There was rivers coming to a point, and we set up on this point and had a perimeter set up. Well, the tide started coming in, and we were up in the trees by the time middle of the night. So we learned a lot there. And so the next month or so, it was pretty much that type of stuff. Yeah. And when we were doing that, part time we'd be out, and then they had an LST ship where the front comes down. They had us living on one of them just on the coast, close to the river, where the river come out. And we were living on that for a while. And I'm thinking it's about then. We were living on this ship, and we were back in for a couple days. We'd go out for maybe 2 or 3 days and then come back in for a couple days, because you'd be wet quite a bit. They'd try to get you back in, let everything dry out, and because your feet would be wet a lot. Yeah. So we were back in one time, and I was going to the mess hall, and there was this, the Signal Corps had, they would have something like, it would be like a metal building, big square, and they would have all their communication systems inside that. And there would usually be somebody from the Signal Corps working in there from the Army or Navy, either one. And I went past this one, the door was open, I looked in there, and I saw Bert Jarrett. Huh. I graduated with him from high school. And so he had went in the Army, I think the fall before I did or something, and he had been over there a little while. And so got to meet up with him, and so while I was on that ship, we got together quite a bit. Neat. So I saw him over there. Yeah. And then after we did that, they finally got the main ships. They had, I think, a couple barrack ships. They had a hospital ship. And then they had LCMs, landing craft mediums. It was a little boat about like the D-Day boats, where the front goes down, would handle maybe a platoon. Yeah. They made special ones. They built a lot of special ones for this thing. And they had like double walls for shrapnel and things, And they built them special to do that. They had 50 caliber guns on them. And some of them they could shoot a mortar round off one of them too. Okay. And so the Navy operated them. They operated the barrack ships, and also they had a little helipad on a couple of ships where they could land helicopters too. So we finally moved out into that, and it would be at the mouth of the Mekong River and some of the others. There was a great big area there, not too far from the coast, but that was going to be the area in the Mekong Delta that we were going to be working out of quite a bit. And they had, they would usually have 2 of the battalions out on the barrack ships operating off of those. They would have 1 battalion back. They built another base camp down in that area. it was pretty wet down there, and it was called Dong Tam. It was near Mito, I think it was. And they actually they had a dredge down there that they dredged sand out of the river and built that base camp up, because they built it up higher so they could, and you cannot believe how big that camp became, just off the sand coming out of the rivers. It's unbelievable. But anyway, they built a camp, and that was the base camp for the 2nd Brigade, and then they lived off, some of them lived off the ships. So one battalion would be operating out of Dong Tam, patrolling around that area. The other 2 battalions would be working off the ships, and they would take us out in these LCMs, take us down the rivers. They could let us out at different places. Sometimes they would let us out. We may walk, half a day. Maybe helicopters would pick us up in an area, take us somewhere else. So we did a lot. We patrolled that whole Mekong area there. That was going to be our base of operations. And that started about, I think, early April, when we finally got on the ships.
Okay. Now, were they using the Hueys at that time?
Yes,
okay.
yes. We used Hueys quite a bit.
Okay.
So I was on helicopters quite a bit, and I was on the LCM boats. We did that a lot. We would get out, when we would go out on operation, we would usually leave about 4 in the morning, and they would take us up the ships before, or the streams before it would get light, and just about daylight they would drop us off somewhere, and we might be out for 3 days, maybe 2 days, maybe 4 days, something like that. And like I say, during that time, we might get back on them and go a different place in the rivers and let us off again. Or we might walk to a place where the helicopters could get. They might pick us up there and drop us off a different place. So we patrolled a pretty large area doing that, and that was what we did.
Okay. Did you actually see any of the enemy while you were out on
yes,
patrol?
April's about the first time we really started seeing some. Okay. We had seen a few in the Runsat zone, that first area. I think the whole brigade probably killed 2 or 3 enemy there, so it wasn't very much. Yeah. But in April we started seeing, because there was a couple of pretty large Viet Cong battalions that had been operating in that area. Okay. And what we would want to do is clean that area out. And so in April we'd start seeing some action sometimes, and had a few people killed and wounded, not very many. Not my company hadn't had any killed yet, and we had killed a few of the enemy then. May 2nd, we had a pretty large battle. Bill Emmel was in my team. I had a couple riflemen and a man with a grenade launcher and a machine gun and ammo bearer and assistant gunner. So Bill Emmel was one of my riflemen. He got hit in the arm pretty bad on May 2nd. And A Company had got hit pretty bad just before he got hit. We'd come into an area where there was probably several. A Company walked into an ambush, and I think one platoon had about 10 killed, I think. And Bill Emmel was in my team, and he was wounded that day in the arm. And he got airlifted out, and didn't see him again until I got back to the States, because his arm was hurt up in the muscle area pretty bad.
Did they send him back to the States?
Yes, they sent him to Japan for a while, and then sent him back to the States.
So he must have got hurt pretty bad.
Yeah, he did. He did stay in the Army until we got out. When he did finally get out of the hospital, they sent him to Fort Leonard Wood. Okay. And then he got out the same time we did. But I didn't see him anymore until we got back to the States. So May 2nd was the first really a lot of action and fairly good sized battle that we got in.
Okay. Yeah. How long did that battle actually go on?
Probably a couple hours in the afternoon. We knew that we had heard that another unit had got ambushed, and we were going towards that area, and that's when Bill got hit. And I remember seeing he got hit by a sniper, and we knew the woods. It was a wooded area that it come from, and I started getting grenade launchers firing into the area because it was woods and we couldn't actually see him. Yeah. And we did find some blood in there later, but never did find anybody. So.
Yeah. At that point in the war, were they finding you, or were you finding them?
We were out looking for them, and sometimes we would come up on them. Okay. They knew we were coming out. You know, I mean, we didn't do anything real quiet, especially in the daytime. I mean, you know, when you got helicopters and boats, I mean, they know you're coming. Let's face it. So they usually, if they hit us first, it's because either we had them in an area where they had to, or they wanted to hit us. Okay. So, but they would, and at that time, I would guess we were hitting platoon-size units or smaller. They would, even if there was a lot of them out there, they would be in different areas. And at that time, I don't think we'd hit anything much larger than platoon size, which would be 30 to 40.
Were you fairly evenly matched, or did you overpower them?
Oh, I think we could overpower them. I mean, but if you walked into something, the terrain was a big problem. It was a lot of jungle type stuff when it was woodsy. There was a lot of rice paddies. They were at that time it was starting to rain in April, so it was starting to get wetter. The paddies were getting wetter. You'd get into mud. You'd get into mud almost up to your knees, and then water. Yeah. And it was just so hard to move because we were loaded down with, you know, a lot of weight, had our weapons and all our ammo and just everything we'd need to carry with us. And so the terrain was a really big problem. I mean, it was tough to get around. And so, and they knew the terrain. They knew where they could go, and they had a lot of bunkers. You know, they sometimes hard to find. Had tunnel systems, some of the places. So I'd say the terrain was a big problem for us. Really was.
It seemed to me like you'd be really vulnerable in the rice paddies.
We were. You had to. We would send out. We would have point men. Right. And they would come out ahead of time, and then the main body would be. We'd maybe have a couple back, and we'd even have them walking along the sides too, along a tree line maybe or something. And so we tried not to move where if they was going to shoot at us, we wouldn't all be out in the open, you know. And that was, you know, as I think about it, a lot of us were younger, not trained like you would think you'd normally be. The officers, some of them were the same way because they needed a lot of young lieutenants awfully fast. So some of the lieutenants were really good. Some of them, frankly, weren't. So different units may move different ways, depends on how the lieutenant wanted to do it. Right. And if you had a good one, he would make sure, you know, you moved cautiously and didn't get your whole unit out in the open at once. And some of them didn't do a good job of that because the terrain would get to you. You'd be tired, you know, hard to think. Well, it's easier just to get over here and walk on this dike instead of walking over here where it's harder to walk. Yeah. But you was also a bigger target up there. Target, yeah. So, you know, you had to be careful of that all the time. And if you went several days and didn't see anything, your mind would get, you know, where you weren't as careful, some of them. So I usually had a pretty good lieutenant and NCOs. So we felt like we did a pretty good job.
Any officers that you thought pretty highly of? Do you recall any?
Yes. The captain I had when I was in Delta Company, when I first went to the infantry unit that was disbanded, he went and became C Company commander. Okay. He was one of the finest officers I've ever seen. My captain was a a West Pointer. I thought he was real good too. His
Do you
name
recall
was,
the names?
yes, the one that went to C Company was Ron Minner, and my commander was, last name was Ludke. I can't think of his first name right now. I should know that. But his last name was Ludke. And
I didn't call him by his first name too
No,
often.
always called him Captain. So, and that was, most of us went by last names.
Yeah.
I mean, that's just the way it was in the Army. Because that's what the officers called you,
Right.
and so sometimes that's what we called each other too. But the terrain was a big problem, and the rice paddies became a problem the wetter they got. We had areas where we'd go in was really wet, and leeches. Some of them had leeches in them. We would get them on us quite a bit sometimes. And
So what's the proper way to remove a leech?
they'd usually, the ones that had cigarettes, they'd touch them with the fire and they'd back out.
Yeah.
Or if you had a match or something like that. That's usually how we did it. Try to get them. And I never got very many on me. And I don't know if it was something about your bloodstream or something. Some guys could walk, I could walk right next to them, they'd have them all over them.
Huh.
I might not have any on me, might have one or two. And it was be always that way.
You're lucky.
So I was very fortunate, but
Yeah.
some of them would really get them.
What about sleeping at night? What were the arrangements there?
About the only thing we carried with us was a poncho.
Yeah.
That's just a waterproof thing. It has goes over your head and just goes over you. And that's about the only thing we carried. And so we just laid on the ground at night. Sometimes you'd put that under you or something, or try to put it over you, or if it was raining, you just wear it and just sit down.
Mm-hmm.
You know, try to lean up against something. We also had banana groves that we would be in.
Mm.
In fact, sometimes we'd set up in areas like that at night where we had cover
Yeah.
and a perimeter.
That wouldn't be too bad.
And they were like rows of trees, and then between the rows would be a ditch of water.
Okay.
That's how they grew. So we would be in them. So we was always having to cross them. It'd be pretty wet, lots of streams. Just seemed like when we were out, we were just about always wet. So.
Yeah, pretty miserable.
Mm-hmm.
So did you stay in that area, or did you move on?
We'd be in that area. I can't remember all the dates when we were, and sometimes we'd go to Dongtam then for maybe 5 or 6 weeks.
Okay.
And so we'd be in our tents with the sandbags around us on a cot. We had cots there.
Yeah.
So when we would be in, we could take showers every day usually. And what we did, we might go out on nightly patrols, but we usually weren't out much more than one day at a time, 1 or 2 days at a time when we'd be back in camp.
Which is better, night patrol or day patrol?
I don't know, because night, what we would do, we would wait till after dark, even when we was out somewhere. If we were going to move and set up an ambush or something at night, we would wait till it got dark. Then we would move to the area where we were going to set up, and there was a specified area that the officers, like if they was going to have a squad over here and a squad over here or something, they would tell you an area to set up in. And so they would know where you was at for
Okay.
if you got hit for artillery or anything
Right.
like that. So we'd wait till dark, then we would move to that area. We might not move the shortest way to that area. We might move where we didn't think we'd get hit or something.
Right.
We'd move and set up in that area, and then next morning we'd usually stay there till it got light, and then pack up and then move back into camp or wherever was going to move. Maybe move back to a central area with the other squads or something. But I didn't like moving at night because you never knew, what was going to, because you usually in an area you didn't know where you were.
Yeah.
So I didn't like moving at night, but I like daytime better.
Okay.
Just because I could see something, even though most of the times we got hit in the daytime.
You could be seen better too. So
Yeah.
there's a trade-off there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I would probably still take daytime, I guess. Cause
Yeah. Vietnam at night is
yeah,
dark.
yeah, really dark.
Yeah. Not a lot of street lights.
Nope. Nope. Didn't have much.
Was it mostly Viet Cong or North Vietnamese?
Mostly Viet Cong. That was way down the south part.
Yeah.
Very few North Vietnamese. We would see, and I think the few we saw was probably people coming down there to help lead the Viet Cong regiments.
Okay.
Actually, where I was at, most of them, they would have uniforms, but some of them, but it was mostly the VC battalions. But that was maybe 400 or 500 in a battalion, maybe. So they would have pretty large units.
You experience people helping you out at base during the daytime and then putting on the pajamas at night. And
yeah, that we were try to be careful of that because you know, you never knew.
Yeah.
Because we had a lot of Vietnamese working there in the camp, women and you know, they laundry people and had them giving you haircuts, things like that. So there was a lot of them working in there. So you know, you never knew.
Yeah.
And I'm sure the VC knew right where things were in our, because and we'd get mortared around sometimes in the base camps.
Yeah, because they could walk off the distances and just
sure.
zero in at night.
Yeah.
They know right where to put them.
Yeah.
Did you have a lot of mortar attacks?
Had a few, not that many. It would depend on how well. See, we would patrol that area at night too. So the better job we did of doing that, the less chance of having mortar attacks.
That makes
So
sense.
that's why we always kept units back there that would patrol that area and try to keep that area clear as much as we could.
Okay. I probably ought to stop there. It sounds as though you had fairly good leadership.
I think we did. I think the officers we had were really good, and you know, some of our, like I say, my squad leader and stuff, they went in the same time I did, hadn't been in, you know, at this point maybe a year.
Yeah.
And really, we did a good job, and I think was very competent people for the training we had. I mean, we had to get all that training in a short time.
Yeah.
And I still feel pretty good about the job we did over there, and you know, in our little part of it anyway.
Going as a unit probably helped too.
I think it did. And I think that's why I feel closer to, some of us trained and then went over there and was together, the same guys, quite a bit more than a year.
Yeah.
And in that situation, the things you went through, you don't forget each other, you know. Where if you was a replacement going in, people coming and going all the time, you might not know anyone for more than 2 or 3 months. So you don't have that closeness, and there's guys I'll never forget, you know.
Yeah.
Because I knew them for such a time, things we went through.
And the country really hadn't turned so much against you guys at that time.
No, not
And
at that
had to
time.
have
That's
helped some.
why, you know, just, I think now if you say Vietnam, it's just a bad feeling comes over you. And it's unfortunate because that really wasn't my experience at that time. I mean, it was a difficult thing. There's no doubt about that. But if things could have worked right, it might have had a different, you know, ending. I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah. What kind of things did you fear from the enemy? I mean, what were some of the tactics and weapons that they used against you?
They had a lot of booby traps around, and the point man would usually be vulnerable to that, and I did some of that too, because being a team leader, I didn't feel like I should send the same guy out all the time.
Yeah.
And so I tried to move it around, and I would do it sometimes too.
I've heard
because
somebody say they actually preferred taking the point.
a lot of guys did. There would be a few guys that they would volunteer to do it because that's what they wanted to do, you know. But I would do it sometimes because, you know, I just thought I should. But, and I would try to move it around because I didn't want, you know, somebody to get burnt out, and just, you know, just try to move it around a little bit as long as the guy was good at it and willing to do it. I mean, if a guy was so scared he couldn't do it, he wouldn't be any good out there anyway.
Right.
But
you could also
yeah.
get to the point where you take it for granted.
Yeah, that's true.
Whereas it,
Yeah,
you
and that
rotate
would
it,
happen sometime. A guy
keep it a
would
little sharp.
get a little bit careless and
Yeah.
get hit by a booby trap or something. A sniper is something, probably nothing you can do about that.
No.
I mean,
No.
if you're going to walk into it, you're going to walk into it. But a booby trap, you watch for them. But they're pretty hard to see too. And it was usually a small explosive device, you know. Usually wouldn't kill them. Usually put shrapnel in their legs and maybe, you know, just enough to get them sent back or something, you know.
More explosive types, or just, you know.
We had a few of the punji sticks and things like that, and every now and then you'd find a real large, like a landmine or something, but most of them were the sort of the homemade type, small, like a tin can or something filled with little nails or something, you know, something like that. That I would say that's the majority of them. There were some punji sticks, but not too many. But more of them were the small explosives. That's the more trouble we had anyway.
Right.
Because if you hit a big landmine or something, then it could kill a couple guys pretty easy, you know.
Yeah. Did you ever come close to tripping one yourself?
I never did. I did see a couple before I tripped that you just happened to see it, you know, because it's pretty hard in a jungle type area or anything, you know. It's pretty hard to see. So, but we got better at it, you know, and after you see somebody get hit, then you're a lot more careful about it.
Yeah. Tell me about the ones you saw. I mean, what caught your attention?
Well, you just like scared, and then you know, you just don't
Did you
don't
see
know.
a wire or something? I mean,
Yeah, usually a wire, like a trip wire or something.
Okay.
And for the explosive ones, the punji sticks or something would be an area maybe if you looked at the ground and something just didn't look right, like it'd been placed there or something, you know, the grasses or leaves or something, and so you just try to be careful and make sure there wasn't any wires around it, and then move it, and sometimes you'd find but I seen a couple, but other than that, it was and we had a few guys that got hit like that. I don't remember any of my units getting killed by one of those. Most of the ones that our unit got killed was shot. But that was sort of scary because that's the unseen, you know.
Kids aren't supposed to die.
No.
Yeah.
No, and you just, well, like I say, you feel like you're invincible.
Yeah.
Even over there, you still, because you're 19 or 20 years old, you feel like you're invincible.
Was there a point at which you said, you thought to yourself, maybe I'm not as invincible as I thought I was?
Yeah, I think so. And there would be a few times you'd wonder if you're ever going to get home, you know.
Yeah.
Because after you've been over there several months, and the longer you was over there, really the longer we were over there, the more action we sort of saw.
Yeah.
So towards the end, you know, you wondered if you was ever going to see home again. So.
Do you remember some of the ones who were killed? Can you give me names or a little something?
Yeah, we had a really big battle June 19th of '67. We had a large operation. They had information that a whole battalion was in this one area. So we went off the ship set early that morning. They dropped different companies at different places. The 4th of the 47th was there, and the 3rd of the 47th. The 4th of the 47th was dropped into an area and started patrolling out an area, search and destroy mission. And we, 3rd of the 47th, had went around. C Company was in a blocking position, like behind where they thought they might be.
Right.
And we were coming over from the right side of where 4th of 47th went. Well, one company from the 4th of 47th, A Company, I think it was, they got hit heavy. They walked right into a big ambush, and there was probably 30-some kill within just a short time. One platoon took almost all of them. The platoon leader was killed. He was a West Pointer. And so we heard, you know, just like all heck breaking loose. And so they started trying to get us into the area to try to hem them in. We had to cross some streams, and took us a while to get there. This probably happened about 10 to 11 in the morning. It was probably afternoon by the time we got up fairly close. Mike Ritchie was in C Company, and he had sort of got separated from some of his company. And we would cross streams at certain places where we could cross easier. And I happened to see him, and we stood there and talked a minute as we were going to cross the stream. And then after we crossed, he went ahead and went back to his company, and I went to mine. As we got to where the firing was, Danny Miller from Indianapolis, he was my machine gunner. He and I went up to set up a machine gun because we could see him in a tree line up ahead. So we went up to, there was rice paddies, and there was, the graves they had over there was big mounds of dirt. They would have them like that. Yeah. And so we tried to get fairly close to some of them, but we set up behind a dike where we could still fire, so it wasn't a whole lot of cover. He had he had an assistant gunner and an ammo bearer. They were new replacements. They were behind a grave farther back, and I couldn't get them to bring the ammo up. So I went back, got some more ammo, and got it up there, and Danny and I were setting up the machine gun, and we both got hit. Spun me around. I remember I was leaning over, we were loading the gun, getting it ready, and the next thing I knew, I was about 3 or 4 feet away, just laying flat, and Danny was down. And so I hollered for the medic. The medic come up, and I told him to start working on him. I was okay. I'd been hit in the back. And so we started working on Danny, and the medic and I both got hit again. I got hit in the leg, and he got hit in the leg. They were both flesh wounds. Oh my. So we could hear them hitting all around us and everything. And so we tried to get behind the dike, tried to get Danny down, and we called for, they were trying to get other guys up there to help us. Yeah. And we were still working on Danny, and I remember when finally they got up there and got more fire, then they could get us back a little ways, because Danny we was gonna have to have helicopters come in and get us. And this probably we probably didn't get out of there for another couple hours at least, because it was later in the afternoon, not dark yet, but getting close. And I later found out that Mike Ritchie, when he went over to C Company, he got hit also. He got hit in the chest. His company had a couple killed that day. And so he was waiting to get medevaced out too. Okay, they finally got a chopper in there about, it was before dark, and got Danny and me and 2 or 3 other guys on it. And I remember we were starting to go up, and a mortar round hit probably within 10 or 15 feet of us. And I looked at the pilot, and he looked over that, and I swear that thing almost went straight up. Because he got out of there. Wow. We landed at Ton Son Airport there in Saigon, and put us in an ambulance. We went to Third Field Hospital, and I remember they started working on me, and the doctor actually took one of the bullets out of my leg right there. They cut all my clothes off of me. And the next thing I remember, I'm waking up from recovery, and I can't keep still. One of the corpsmen there, or whatever, medic, he said, "Boy, you've really been going nuts. I've been trying to keep you still." And I don't know if, I think they had given me morphine there.
Yeah.
And I don't know if I had an allergic reaction to it or not. But so anyway, so they took me to my room, and so the next morning I asked a nurse about Danny, see if she had a Danny Miller there, and they come back and told me that he had died.
Oh, gee.
So, and I stayed there in the hospital for about, I think about 5 or 6 weeks. They left me open for about a week, and then I think because of infection and things like that, and then they stapled me up, and then took them out later. But I stayed there about 6 weeks, I think, and then went back to my unit, and hadn't known very much about the battle, you know, till then, because I was out of commission. While I was in the hospital, the assistant division commander come in and give me my Purple Heart. I still got that picture. And Floyd Patterson, you remember him?
Oh, yeah. Oh,
Boxer. He come in and visit us.
Did he really?
Yeah.
I'll be darned.
Talked to him, shook hands with him and everything.
Wow.
And so
That's pretty neat.
the last couple weeks I was doing pretty good, and I remember reading. I'd go to the library and I read almost constantly.
Yeah.
But I went back to my unit and found out that day our units altogether had I think 46 killed and about 130 wounded.
Oh, gee.
Out of 2 battalions, that's probably 600-700 probably, I imagine. I don't know, maybe a little more. So that was really big battle, and we had killed 206. They found 260 bodies, the enemy, and a few of them got away. They said slipped away.
Now,
But
where
they were
was the
said
battle located? Where was it?
it was in the Mekong Delta.
Okay.
I think it was the Kanguk region or something like Kanguk region. And I've got a book that tells about some of the battle of the brigade commander. At that time he was a full colonel.
Okay.
And he later became a 3-star general. He wrote a book about Riverine operations later on for training, and it tells about that battle in this book. I've got it. So, but I went back and so found out that was, and found out about Mike Ritchie. We didn't know about each other until our parents wrote back to us and told us.
Okay.
Because when I wrote to my parents and told them what happened to me, I remember that was, well, before the 4th, it was just before the 4th of July. My brother, he was living in California at the time. They had a little baby. They were coming back to Indiana to visit, and I think it was about the day he got there is when my mom and dad got the letter that I'd been hurt. So when Dad got home from work that day, when they got the letter, my little sister ran out and told him, Rodney got shot. Rodney got shot.
Oh boy.
So he's he's going in the house, don't know what's happened and everything. And then I think my brother come in maybe the next day or something. And so they got a hold of the Red Cross, and they told him I was recovering, to be okay and everything. And then I think I wrote them letters as soon as I could too.
Did your mom ever talk to you about that? Getting that letter?
Yeah. She had told me since, you know, she never got a good night's sleep the whole year I was there. She would think about me when she went to bed and when she got up, you know, and Dad said so too. And that's, now I realize how tough it was on them.
Dad even worse because he had actually seen action. And
yeah,
and
he did.
exactly
He knew
you
what
were
I was going to
into.
be going through.
Tell me a little bit more about Danny Miller. I mean, what kind of guy was
Oh,
he?
he was a great guy, one of the easiest going guys. You know, never, nothing ever bothered him. You know, he was just, would keep going no matter what. Maybe complain a little bit, but, you know, would always do his job. Good guy. And Mike McGuire was another guy that went in with us, and he actually went to Echo Company in that same battalion, and we've talked since. He was real good friends with him. They'd went to school together down in Indianapolis. And in fact, he got me in touch with his mother a few years ago. And but Danny was a great guy, and just, you know. A few years ago at a reunion, I talked to Mike, and he gave me his Danny's mother's address. His father, I think, had died when he was a kid, and she had remarried, so his stepfather helped raise him. And he had since died. By the time I found Danny's mother, he had passed away, so she was living by herself in a, it's like an assisted living apartment type thing. Don't remember what year it was, probably about 98, 99, I think. I went to see her and talked to her. Janine and I spent about all afternoon talking to her, because she had a lot of questions. You know, she never really knew what happened, probably, because she'd never talked to anybody that was with him. And so I told her, you know, pretty much how things happened, and that I was with him. And I think she felt pretty good about that, really. She, you know, got a little bit of closure, because I'm sure none of the family knew. They probably didn't tell him much, you know, I'm sure. Probably didn't know. The ones that was back with him probably didn't know. So
when he got hit, was he pretty much just out like that?
yeah, he was unconscious. He got hit in the back also. We were both leaning over the gun getting it ready, and we probably got hit from the flank.
Yeah.
And it went in his back, but right in his heart area.
Oh.
So he was unconscious. I'm guessing he was bleeding a lot internally, because he didn't bleed a lot. You know, I mean, we saw where he was hit and everything, but probably didn't realize how bad it was, and there was probably nothing we could do out there for him.
And he probably didn't suffer a lot. He probably just went right into shock. And
yeah, I think so. Mm-hmm.
Wow.
Yeah.
It was nice of you to take that time, because I know that was important to her.
Mm-hmm. And it was sort of hard for me to do, but I'm glad I did.
Very good for you.
Yeah.
When you were wounded, were you thinking of yourself, or because you had this unit you were responsible for?
I don't know. I was wanting to get Danny taken care of, and I told him we needed some help up here. We needed to get some cover fire and all that. And so I remember doing that, but it's hard for me to remember detail after that then, because I remember when they did get some other guys up and we got a lot of cover fire, and then they could get us back there. And so I don't remember a lot after that. But
you impressed me as the kind of leader that would be thinking outward toward the other guys around you, worried about.
And I was worried about Danny.
Are they okay?
You know?
Danny, of course. It was very painful. I mean,
you know, as I think back, I think it just sort of felt numb, like, you know. I don't remember being in a whole lot of pain until a little later, and I think they did give me a shot of morphine later, after we got back and was ready to get on the helicopter.
I hear that a lot. I mean, guys get hit.
At first, I don't really remember any pain right away. I remember when I first got hit, I found, well, I'm over here instead of over there. What happened? I mean, I should have known exactly what happened, but it's like, it's hard to comprehend. But I don't remember a lot of pain, no, at that time.
Now, did you stay in that area the whole time you were there? Did they move you anywhere else?
Okay, when I went back, I got back probably, let's see, it was probably by the 1st of August or something like that. And I was on light duty for a while before I could go back out in the field. But we were still in that general same area, still between Dong Tam and the boats. And so they sent me on an R&R not too long after I got back, because I couldn't go out in the field anyway. So I went to Japan with Pancho Villa.
Did you really?
His name was Albert Villa. He was a guy in my squad, and he was part of my team part of the time too.
Yeah.
And he was his family had been from Mexican descent. You know,
Yeah.
he lived in Southern California. That's where he's from. And so we went on R&R together to Japan, had a good time, and spent a week. Come back, and then I started going out in the field again, and I still had a team under me. We was beginning to have a lot of replacements then, and they were starting to infuse people. We had went over as a unit, so that meant everybody would go home at the same time.
Okay.
So they couldn't afford to have units having everybody go home and then all new guys come in. So they started infusing, they called it, few guys into different units. They would send like maybe somebody from our 47th Infantry over to the 39th Infantry.
Okay.
And because we had started to have replacements all the time because we'd had a lot of guys get hit. So we were having some new ones anyway. But some of the original ones would start to go to different units, so one unit wouldn't have all the replacements come in at the same time. And we would get guys from other units coming in. So it was a lot of changeover. I never did get infused. I was one of the few that didn't. And I think it was because when they started writing up the orders, I was still in the hospital.
Okay.
I'm thinking, I've thought a lot about this since, and I think that's probably one of the reasons. But anyway, so I stayed in the same unit, and by the time I went home, I think I was the last one in my platoon that was original, because we were supposed to stay over there a year or less. Sometimes they would send you home. They would scatter them out, send them home too. They would maybe start sending them home middle of December,
Okay.
give them a month drop or something, and then send a few all along. Well, I stayed till the 8th of January.
Wanted to get
The
your
last
eyes
day I
wet.
could have went home was the 9th, and I went home the 8th. So I think I was about the last one in my platoon that went. Well, I'd had to have been about the last one in the whole unit to go home. So, but so as we started back going out in the field again, we were getting a lot of newer people. I can't remember a lot of their names as much because I wasn't with them as much, you know. But Gary Barnett's one of them. He was I've seen him since. He's from Kentucky. He was one of them. We was on our 3rd company commander by then, because the officers, they would change them out after they'd been over a frontline unit for 6 months. They would give them some kind of other job, and so we'd usually get a new. So I was actually on my 3rd company commander, and probably my 3rd lieutenant,
Okay.
platoon leader too.
Who's the general in charge at that time? That was before Westmoreland, wasn't it?
Westmoreland was still there then.
Oh, he was? Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
I think he was the one. Pretty sure he was.
All right.
Never seen him.
Yeah. Never stopped
But-
by to ask your advice or
No.
anything?
I'm trying to think. I think our division commander was General O'Connor. He was a 2-star.
Okay.
Hardly ever seen him. There was a 1-star that I said that his name was Rosenborough, and he was the one that come give me the Purple Heart in the hospital. He was a 1-star. The one I seen more was our battalion commander, which was General at that time Colonel Bulldog, and also Colonel Fulton was the brigade commander. He became a 3-star general later, and Colonel Bulldog became a 2-star general later. They both retired at that level.
Yeah.
So, and they were both real good officers. General Fulton was like a father figure to me. We would have followed him anywhere, I think. He was about 6'6", just looked like an Army officer.
Yeah.
You know, just looked the part, and was had the combination of being a tough, but a feeling, you know, just compassionate man. he was.
Tough for all the right reasons.
Yeah.
Instead of just being tough.
And
for,
I got to meet him later and talk to him quite a bit at some of the reunions.
oh, that's nice.
Him and General Bulldog both. So never really got to know them when I was there because they were always so much higher than me, you know.
Right.
I mean, but I knew who they were and really respected them, just like my father. I mean, I think
Yeah.
at that age, you've had someone tell you what to do. I think that's why they like soldiers at that age. They'll just do what they're supposed to or what they're told without question. You know, if they put me back in now, I would probably question. Well, you sure you want me to do that? But at that, you know, at 20 years old, I just did whatever they told me.
Yeah.
And that can be good and bad, I guess. But General Fulton he's a great guy, and he later became the assistant division commander during the last part of that year. Okay. But we continued our operations sometimes on the boats. Got into some more battles. I never got wounded anymore. I had some guys in my unit get. One thing I remember is we were on the boats and we got hit by a recoilless rifle and sprayed shrapnel in the area. I didn't get hit, but several did, and one guy got one piece right here, hit his jugular vein, and he bled to death right there.
Oh, gee.
And I never forget that.
Do you recall his name? Do you know?
No, he was a replacement. He had only been there 2 or 3 weeks.
Oh, gee.
And I don't remember his name. I've tried to think of it a lot of times.
Yeah,
I
I
can't
could probably see where there'd be times when you feel vulnerable when you're on the land.
But on the
But you're a
ships,
big
yeah,
target
because
on that
because
ship,
we
aren't
were
you?
going right down, and a lot of at first we didn't get hit in them very much,
Yeah.
but the longer we did it, they figured out how to try to hit us before we got on land,
Yeah.
you know, and so they would try to start setting up ambushes for us later
How
on.
big were these ships now?
Well, we could get a whole platoon on that
Okay.
front. You ever seen the ships that like D-Day? You've seen pictures.
Yeah.
About that size.
Okay.
Probably 30 foot long, maybe. I don't
Okay,
know.
about like Higgins' boat.
Yeah, about like that. And they built these special, probably off of that, a design similar to that,
All right.
because it had the front that went down.
Yeah.
And they tried to armor them a lot more and to have, like I said, they had the double walls. So hopefully if it hit that outside wall, it would spread it and not go through the inside wall.
No, that would make sense.
Yeah. So.
It's going back out into the field again after having been in a hospital.
That was tough the first few times I went out.
Yeah.
And because I was very aware of what could happen. And the closer to the time it come for me to go home, it was very hard to go out because, you know, it just you knew you were getting close and didn't want to, you know, you just wanted to go home. But the last time I went out was late December. I think it was before Christmas, because I had to go back up to Bear Camp, the main camp, to get a physical because I'd been injured and I was still under doctor's care for part of the time. So I had to get a physical before they sent me home. They wanted to, I don't know if they wasn't going to send me home or what, but anyway, I had to go back up to doctor and get a final thing. And so I went up there right around Christmas, and Bob Hope was up at that camp.
Yeah, I was gonna
Christmas
ask you.
Day. I got to see Bob Hope Christmas Day of '67.
Yeah. Now, which camp was this?
Bearcat.
Bearcat. Okay.
That was the main division camp.
Wow, that's neat. Well, okay, tell me the experience there.
Oh, just great. He had Barbara McNair with him.
Yeah.
Who was the Raquel Welsh?
Yeah.
She was there with him, and then some of the regular ones, others, the band, Les Brown's band,
Yeah.
and some of them. But and there was thousands of us there at the camp, you know, sitting everywhere we could, up on top of buildings and stuff, you know.
Yeah. Any of you
So-
guys noticed Raquel when she came out?
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah, she was kind of probably a real crowd favorite at that point.
yes. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But
I tell you, you follow that guy, World War II, Vietnam, Korea. I mean,
Yeah.
he was just everywhere.
He never, and I don't know if he went to the first Gulf War or not. His people did, I think, or he was instrumental in getting people. I can't remember if he went in '91 or not.
I don't remember.
He was still alive. I don't know if he was able
Yeah.
to or not. But I know because of him, people still go over there and entertain. And I think it's because of him. You know, they don't want to let that not happen. So
Now, what time was this? When, I mean, December or was it?
the Christmas Day,
Okay, Christmas Day.
I was there. I happened to be up there. I think I'd seen a doctor the day before, and usually you was up there 2 or 3 days because you had to get away up there, and we had these little landing strips on the I think it was called a caribou plane,
Yeah.
sort of a carried cargo, but they had along the sides they had fold down seats, and so if you needed a ride up to the main camp, you had to get on a list and get on that. Well, then it may be 2 or 3 days before you could get the ride back. So I was up there a couple of days, I think, after I seen the doctor. So Bob Hope was there, so I stayed and seen him.
Wow.
Then I got back to my unit, and we were back in the base camp at Dong Tam, and the last 3 or 4 days I had paperwork to fill out to go home. So I don't think I went to the field after that any. So the last time I went to the field was in December, I think.
Yeah. Do you think there's anybody kind of pulling the strings to keep you out of the field?
I think I had a fairly new lieutenant, and I think he knew. You know, he said, you know, you've done your part. You know, we were getting more new guys then because they knew they had to have a lot of people right in there, because about all the original ones were going to be gone. So I think he may have. I don't know. You know, that it wouldn't have been very much anyway, because like I say, the last 4 or 5 days I had to fill out paperwork anyway. So, but he had me doing stuff back at the camp. So,
You know,
so that's part of it.
Ken Delabastida works for the paper, and he was a medic, and he says that when he knew that a guy only had a short period of time left, he would find all kinds of problems with him.
Oh,
I'm
yeah.
sorry, but he's got
Yeah.
problems with his feet. He can't go out.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
he really took that to heart, because he.
Yeah. You know, and it's. I mean, you want to do what you're supposed to do, but
Yeah.
but it got tough. It did. I'll have to say that. I mean, you know, because in your mind, you know, I've only got a little bit of time left, and you know, somebody's got to be the last one to get killed. I mean, you know.
It could really
So-
make you ineffective.
Yeah, it probably could. Yeah.
And it really creates a greiter hazard
Yeah,
for the fellow.
because I was in leadership capacity,
Yeah.
and I had to do that. So and they may have seen that. You know, I don't know. Probably did.
Still corporal at this time, or
I was a sergeant, but I was a full sergeant by then.
Okay.
I made sergeant right after I got back, I think, from the hospital. Not too long after that.
Okay. Okay. How many we got here?
4.
All right. You remember you were with these guys pretty much most of the time. You remember some of the guys in your unit?
The original guys.
Yeah. I mean,
Yeah. Floyd Armstrong from New York, George Harrington, Wallace, what's his name? Can't remember his first name now. Ron Wallace.
Okay.
Albert Villa, Bill Emmel. His nickname was Worm. He was a little bitty skinny guy. Always called him Worm. And some of the sergeants was Sergeant Williams. He was probably about 40 years old then. And as I think back, some of the sergeants that were in their 40s, that was pretty tough on them.
Yeah.
Because we were doing physical. I mean, we were walking all day, several thousand meters, you know, carrying a lot of weight. And, you know, I was 20 years old. We could do it, you know. But somebody 40-some years old, that wasn't, I think about it now, that wasn't easy on them.
Yeah.
So,
It'd be like your dad.
yeah. Yeah, that was my
that's a
dad's
difference
age
there.
then, you know.
Yeah.
He was probably 45 then or something, you know.
Yeah.
So that was pretty tough on him, I think. But I have seen a few of the guys, like I say, Mike Ritchie, we come back to guide, work together in machine repair. We both went to machine builders, worked together there. We retired the same day.
Yeah.
And so we're still friends. Actually, Janine and I ran around with him and his wife some. They had 2 daughters the same age as our 2 sons. So when we were younger, raising our families, we got together a lot. And so we've been friends for, you know, since 1966. So
Now, did you say that Mike had the chest wound?
he had the chest wound. He got sent to Japan and then come back home.
Okay.
He actually stayed in the whole time too. He went to Fort Knox, was on light duty until he got out.
Yeah.
He's had some problems, health problems. He's had high blood pressure since. You know, I think it affected him. You know, he still probably don't have the stamina he would have had. You know, because it collapsed one lung and all that kind of stuff. So
Yeah, that's a pretty serious
yeah,
place to get hit.
yeah, it was. In fact, Captain Minner told me later. You know, he didn't know if he was going to make it or not. And one of his sergeants, we met at a later reunion, and he said it was like seeing a ghost because he didn't think he was alive.
Wow.
When he come out,
Wow.
because he was white as a sheet when he come out on the chopper, you know. So.
It's a good place to stop there. So you were getting down toward the end of it.
Mm-hmm.
Did you have a short timer stick or something like that?
I always knew how many days I had left. Well, you know, I would always count to January 9th, and then I got my orders. You get your orders like 8 to 10 days ahead of time, then you have to start. But so I knew around the 1st of the January that I was going to be going home the 8th. So then I knew it was short and was really ready. You know, I spent a year there, and when I think about my dad being overseas for 3.5 years, being married and having a child, you know, I can't imagine that. How long that year seemed to me, you know, because, you know, you never think you're going to get back. And Dad has told me before he never thought he'd get back, never thought he'd see his family again. So, and I'm sure there's a lot of them that way, you know.
Yeah, he saw a lot more days of combat.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know that he saw really any worse than what you saw.
Well, you know, it's all different, and that's what we've talked about that since. You know, it's every war is a little different, and the type of things you have to deal with. I mean, you know, we didn't have to deal with any cold weather. I mean, sometimes the rain would be so wet we'd feel cold at night, but we didn't have winter like the Battle of the Bulge was, you know, or something like that, or didn't have the desert. The people in the desert, they have things they have to deal with. We didn't. So everything's different, but it's all bad, you know,
like
tough.
jungle critters that
Yeah,
get up there.
I got bit by a snake over there. I was in one of those banana groves. We were on a night ambush, and I was laying in there. We'd take turns. We'd usually have 2 guys watching out. We'd have 3-man position usually, and have 2 guys looking out, and the other guy would try to get a couple hours of sleep and then trade off. And I was laying there behind him and felt something in my shirt. We had the fatigue shirts, you know, you wore out.
Yeah.
And felt something. I grabbed back there, and about that time he bit me. And I could tell it was a snake, and it was dark. You know, I couldn't see him, and he went away.
Yeah.
So I says, oh, great, you know. So I crawled back, told the medic, I says, you know, I don't know anything we can do about it, but I think I got bit by a snake. And so he had a little flashlight, and we got under some stuff, you know, and he looked, and he could see a little mark and everything, and he said, you feel okay? And I said, yeah, I guess I feel okay, you know, and all that. Well, that was about the middle of the night, and a couple hours later, it was getting close to dark, and I was I don't know if it's just I was scared or what, but I got to feeling sick at my stomach and stuff, you know, and so he says, why don't we send you back on, when they bring the supplies out, why don't you go back on the supply chopper? So I says, okay. So I did, and I think they got me back, looked at it, and give me a shot of something. I don't know what it was, but I was all right. And so when they brought some more supplies out on the noon, I went back out again. I was fine.
Yeah.
But it wasn't a very big snake. I have no idea what kind it was or
I don't know
anything.
if it was poisonous or something.
Well, obviously it wasn't, because I'm here. But that's had a lot of weird things happen to me, I guess. You know.
I don't think you get a Purple Heart just for that.
No, I didn't get one for that.
If you could get conch snake.
Yeah. So.
Oh boy.
Mm-hmm. But I came home January the 8th, flew home. I went up, we had to go up. They trucked us up to, I can't remember that camp where they, must have been a replacement camp, because that's where the income, if you first got there, you went through this area, and then when you were leaving, you went through this area, because you'd have to stay overnight there to catch your plane. And I stayed there and flew out of Saigon. It was Flying Tiger Airlines. Mm-hmm. And we stopped in Hawaii just to refuel, I think. We got off, stayed in the airport area there. We got off for just a few minutes and then got back on. Got back to Travis Air Force Base in middle of the night again. Seems like we always got back in the middle of the night. It was about midnight, I think, because they took us to the reception station there at, I think it must have been at Travis. And we had to process back into the States. I think they give us new uniforms and all that kind of stuff. And then they would give us a breakfast, steak and eggs. And then I got a flight, or I took a bus to San Francisco Airport. And I actually caught a flight down to Los Angeles. My brother lived in Riverside.
Okay.
So I wrote and told him, I says, when I get in, I'll try to call you and see if I can stay a day or two with you before we come back, because I hadn't seen him for quite a while. And so he picked me up at the LA airport. I was in my uniform, my dress uniform. Wasn't a very good place to be in California. That's a different kind of place, you know. And people never had any incidents, but you just people didn't want to have anything to do with me much. And that's something that's different now, I think. Wouldn't happen now probably, but happened back then. And my brother,
Stranger in a small town,
yeah,
everybody's looking at you.
yeah. And my brother come pick me up and drove me, and I went and stayed at his house for a couple days. He had one a little over a year old then, I think, and so stayed a couple days with them, and then flew home to see Mom and Dad. They still had the Christmas tree up for me. And I got about a 40-day leave, I think, before I had to go back. And so had a good
Did
time.
they actually know you were coming home?
Well,
you're still in Vietnam. Did you let them know?
yeah, I think I had wrote them and told them I didn't know the exact date,
Okay.
but it'll be around the 10th of January, something like that. So when I did get to my brother's house, I called him, told him I'm going to stay a day or two here, and then I'll be home. And so did that, and had a good time on my leave, gained about 15 pounds on my leave, because I had real milk and all that kind of stuff, real eggs, things like that. So, but then I went to Fort Campbell, and the 101st had just left there to go to Vietnam. The only people back there were people from the 101st that couldn't go overseas for some reason or another, medical, or had a brother there or something, some reason. and people that was coming back from Vietnam or Korea or something like that, and some newer people that couldn't go overseas for one reason or another. So they was going to have me train people there that either wasn't going to go anywhere or had already been somewhere.
Right.
And we were training with conventional warfare, which did not mean much to me.
Match up with what you just said.
So, if you get my gist, you know, I wasn't too enthused about doing this, but I was a sergeant, and Steve Lawyer from Anderson was with me. He got stationed there too. We got stationed same platoon. He was, or same unit. We were roomed together, and we both taught classes. And usually wouldn't have over, we probably didn't have 30 people in the whole barracks as far as privates or something. And then about 7 or 8 sergeants. So, you know, didn't have a lot to do, but they tried to keep us busy, and just, you know, I was there from, probably would have been late February to 17th of May. That's when I got out.
Now, how did the training you had before you went over, how did that line up with what you actually experienced?
Well, it was probably a mixture. They give us the conventional training,
Yeah.
but they knew where we were going, and at that time it was early enough they were still learning
Okay.
what to do in jungle type
Yeah,
training.
I can
and
imagine
stuff.
there's a lot
They
of
were
stuff
still
didn't know
learning.
yet.
So they tried to, especially in the, we went through basic training and then advanced individual training, which everybody goes through. That's about 16 weeks. Then we went through unit training, and they tried to incorporate some of the things they'd learned into that. So I think they did the best they could.
Right.
That's my feeling. You know, there's probably people thinks we didn't get trained good, but I think they did the best they could. They tried to train us for what we was going to face, and we even did when we first got there. Some of them had been there for a few weeks to go. What they did, they had an advance party of some of the officers and NCOs.
That helped.
They went there a few weeks ahead of time, got with other units, and went out on patrols with them to learn things. Then as soon as we got there, then some of the areas that was pretty secure, we went out and did operations in them areas, and that was training. And they were trying to teach us some of the things. So I think they did the very best they could. I really do.
Was the equipment pretty well suited for what you experienced, or did you find yourself saying, boy, I don't need that? And
Yeah. First time you go out, you'd be loaded down with everything, and, well, don't need this, get rid of that, you know. I mean, because we wanted to carry as much ammo as we could.
yeah.
So if there's things that we didn't have to have, like some guys would want use something for a pillow or something like that. Well, you didn't have to have that, and I don't want to carry it, so just different things, you know. That,
Yeah.
And the food, we would usually carry enough for all day because they would try to resupply us every day if they could. So normally we didn't have over 3 meals we had to carry with us.
Oh, that's good.
So sometimes it'd be a few more.
Yeah.
Sea rations.
Sea rations
Mhm.
at that point?
I pretty well eat sea rations for a year, except when we were on the boats,
Yeah.
the Navy boats.
Yeah.
When we were back on the boat, we'd maybe be out for 3 or 4 days, back in for a day or two. When we were back on the boats, that was the best food we had, because evidently they got fresher food because they could get it
Yeah.
flown in or shipped in or something, rather than, now when we was in Dong Tam, powdered eggs, powdered milk, all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
But on the ship, sometimes we'd get real milk sometimes. So there wasn't very many meals, but we did get some good meals like that on there. But when we was out, it was always sea rations.
That was a good arrangement.
Mhm.
Now,
Yeah.
I want to make sure I get this spelled like Riverine.
Riverine,
How do you spell it?
Riverine.
I-N-E?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Yeah. Missed it by 1. Okay. Yeah. I never really heard of an operation quite like
Most
that.
people haven't, and
very
they
different.
said it was the first one that had really been done like this since the Civil War.
Huh.
And recently, I saw on the internet, they've been writing some about, They are doing a little bit of that around Baghdad in the river where the Tigris and the Euphrates River meet. They're doing some, they're not on a big scale like we did it, but they've got some patrol boats that they use for the Navy, and the Marines might be with them. But it's sort of riverine operation. So they have talked to our associate. We have a Mobile Riverine Force Association for the reunions. And they found out about that, so that's been sort of neat.
Yeah, that would be.
That they're doing a little bit of that around Baghdad now, around the rivers, to patrol the rivers.
I want to go back to the day that you left.
Okay.
You went to the airfield.
Mm-hmm.
Were you thinking they're going to throw a mortar round in?
Well,
I mean, were you
I say, I hope this plane don't get shot down when it's taken off.
And then you get on the plane, you're thinking, "Whoa, now I'm a real big target."
Yeah, but you know, I was just
at what point did you
glad
feel
to
like,
be there.
At what point did you feel like, finally, I'm safe now?
Yeah, when I got up high enough, I couldn't see land anymore. You know, I'm safe.
Yeah. Have you ever thought you'd like to go back sometime?
I've had opportunities. The Reunion Association, they have offered trips. I mean, you have to pay for them, but there's trips you can make to go back. I've never had any interest to do it, I don't think.
Yeah.
Not enough to do it. In one way, I'd sort of like to, but not enough to go through with it, I don't think.
Well, it sounded like you got in at a time when it was still being fairly well managed and properly executed.
I thought it was. You know, I talked to other people that's bitter about it, and, you know, there's some guys that was over there that are still bitter about it.
Oh, yeah.
And I never have been. You know, I think they did the best they could, you know, at that time. I mean, I'm sure there was places that was mismanaged terribly, and I guess overall maybe it was, but my experience was not that.
Yeah. So, what kind of medals you got? Purple Heart. You probably got a campaign.
I've got Vietnam campaign, Vietnam service, good conduct. There's one other, some kind of merit thing, and then I've got a Purple Heart and a Silver Star.
Wow. Silver Star, what, for the action where
For
you
June
were
19th.
wounded?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I'm not surprised because it sounded like you really handled things well considering the circumstances.
Yeah, I didn't know it until I got back. Then the company clerk said I'd been put in for it, and not too long later than that, they come down to give it to me. So.
Wow. It's almost something you don't want to earn because of what goes along with it.
Yeah.
I've seen guys react to that. Not so much the Bronze Star, but the Silver Star, Medal of Honor.
Yeah. Probably it's nice and everything, but I think the medal I'm most proud of is the Combat Infantry Badge. Because you have to be in actual combat in the infantry for a certain period of time. And there's a lot of soldiers that never get that because you have to be in an infantry unit to get it, or in infantry action. So
I've heard a lot of soldiers say that was the most important one they've received.
That means more to me than anything, I think.
And having that, it probably has to affect you when you see kids going off to war now.
Yeah. Well, my son has one now.
Yeah.
Well, our younger son has a Combat Infantry Badge. So that's and that brought a lot of it back in 2003 when both my sons were over there. Brought back a lot of memories, and that was probably the toughest year I've spent since I was in, I think.
I can imagine. I can also imagine when you got home and your mom saw you're there.
Yeah.
Did you feel around to see if you were all...
Yeah. She just, you know, it was a good time because I'm sure, like I say, I didn't realize it then what they probably went through, but they were, I'm sure, happy to see me. You know,
I bet they
'cause-
slept really good that night.
Yeah. Yeah, things were good then.
Now, did you get involved in any of the chemical agents at that time?
We were in areas where Agent Orange was because they sprayed along the rivers.
Okay. didn't know
Because
when
there
they
was a lot of
actually started.
foliage along the rivers, and they sprayed some. So I was in areas where it had been sprayed. I don't think I've ever had any. Most of the things that's supposed to have come from that are cancers, and I think diabetes has been linked to it, and I haven't had any of that. So, as far as I know, I haven't been affected by that any.
That's good.
I have rashes on my legs,
Yeah.
but I think that's from my legs being wet all the time, the jungle rot stuff they call it,
Mhm.
and I still get rashes on my legs. I have ever since. So.
Any lasting effects from the wounds themselves?
Some. I've had a numbness in my leg ever since. It's not noticeable anymore,
Right.
really. And I've had little pieces of the shell work out a few years ago. A couple times I'd get a sore where my back was, and it'd like fester up, and then I'd end up it'd be a piece of metal working out. So I've had that happen a couple times.
Wow. So when were you actually discharged?
I got out of active duty May 17th of '68, and I stayed in active reserves until '72.
Okay.
The National Guard was full at that time. Everybody was wanting to get
Yeah.
in. So the National Guard was full, so I was still in reserves, but they didn't have a place for me to be active. So about everybody that come back had served 2 years was in active reserves.
Yeah.
So for the other 4 years.
Came back and
Went back to guide.
How long did it actually take to get back into normal life again once you came home? We take off a few weeks or so?
You know,
or get right back into it?
I'm trying to think how long I took off. I don't think I took off more than a couple of weeks, and then I went back to work. But I think I got back in pretty quick and got to doing things, you know. The guys I worked with in machine repair, there was a lot of older guys, and their mindset was they were proud of me, you know. So I got back into working and got right back into things, I think.
That was good.
Mm-hmm.
That was very good. You know, so many of these guys get called baby killer and stuff when they're getting off the airplane. And
Yeah, like I say, out in California, I didn't have anything actually happen to me, but I got sort of a cold reception. I could you could just feel it, but nothing actually happened. And but back here in Indiana, I don't think it was that way so much. The people I was around, my family, and like I say, my coworkers and stuff, never seen that too much. I mean, you see it on the news, and you know that's where you'd see it. But personally, didn't get much of that.
Yeah. Have anything that you really had to kind of work through? I mean, some fellows were set off by fireworks. They didn't like to be around anything like that.
Didn't like loud, sudden noises. My wife would probably tell you more than I would, but I've had nightmares before and trouble sleeping sometimes. Comes and goes. 2003, I told you, was a bad year for me because it just it brought back a lot of things that I kept back for a long time, I think. Because I come back and I did have some trouble sleeping and nightmares, and you just feel like it's sort of hard to fit in, maybe. But like I said, I had a bunch of good coworkers, so I didn't have that much trouble with that. But I've over the years, I've had maybe sleep trouble and nightmares, and when I'm in a restaurant, I don't like to sit out in the middle of it.
Yeah.
I like to be where my back's, where I can see things. Just things like that, but nothing big. But I'm sure that's affects most people that's been through things.
Probably wouldn't have been too good an idea to sneak up on you back then.
No, that wouldn't have been very good.
Wow. And I'd be very surprised if you even got anywhere near water. You probably didn't take a bath for months on it. I want to be dry.
No, yeah, but I like to take baths because when we get back on the ship, they had showers.
Yeah.
That was good because you didn't get very much of that. So, actually, I like taking showers. So,
Now, you weren't married at the time.
no, I was not married. I had a girlfriend that wrote to me over there, and when I did come back, we got engaged for a period of time, but we ended up breaking it off before we got married, and then so I didn't meet Janine until about 71.
Okay, let's get her maiden name now. Janine
Lackey.
Lackey. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
In relation to the teacher?
Yes.
No kidding.
Betty
I
Lackey's
had
her mother.
I like her. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Nice lady.
Yeah. So I met her in 71, and we got married in 72.
Okay, where'd you meet her?
Actually, her cousin and I worked together, Phil Boone.
Yeah.
That's her cousin, and he introduced us, and we started dating and got married the next year.
How long did it take you to figure out that this is the one?
Not very long, really. She might have figured it out before I did, but it didn't take me too long. I'm not that slow. It was pretty much from the time we dated, we spent a lot of time together. Then it just seemed like, and that was it.
Remember where you took her on the first date?
Pizza Hut.
Pizza Hut. Yeah. Any woman to go with you on Pizza Hut, that's good.
Not too romantic, but
That's a
that was
lasting
it.
relationship now.
That was it.
Yeah, you want to keep those.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Oh, well, we're at it. Put it on pause.
You're asking a lot of us.
All right, tell me about this guy. First time you met him, what was your impression?
Well, the first time I met him, I thought he was really handsome, and he had about the biggest mustache I had ever seen. He could really grow a great mustache.
One of those big long ones with the curly.
It was like a Fu Manchu
Oh,
kind of
okay.
like thing.
Yeah.
Very full and dark and.
Yeah, that time it was dark.
It wasn't ripe yet.
No.
He reminded me of Tom Selleck.
Ah, okay. Well, that's a pretty good
Except a lot
comparison.
shorter.
Not bad. Not bad. Pizza Hut, that was okay with you.
Mm-hmm.
That's good.
Yes. All the other boys I used to date, they weren't big time spenders like Rod.
Oh. Oh boy. So, how long did you date before you got married?
Let's see,
Almost a year, maybe?
yes,
About a year?
just about a year.
Okay.
No, it was actually we met around November, and we were married the following October.
Okay.
So it was just a little less than a year.
Tell me about the proposal. I mean, did you get down on one knee in the Pizza Hut, and or you just sort of say, "Oh, you want to get married? Okay."
We had actually gone to the Starlight musicals at Butler, down at Butler,
Okay.
and we had seen Petula Clark
Oh.
and Ed McMahon opened, and then we saw Petula Clark, and it was a great evening. It was a beautiful, beautiful night, and so he had, and we had gone out to eat afterwards,
Yeah.
and he pretty much proposed to me after dinner.
Were you surprised?
A little bit. I knew we were going to get married.
Yeah.
I just didn't know when. But I knew we were going to get married. I just knew it. He was the one for me.
So you did say yes.
Oh, absolutely.
That's always a good sign.
Yeah.
Yes. Yes.
Now, where'd you get married?
We got married at Trinity United Methodist Church
Okay.
in LaPel, and that was my home church. And we were married by Reverend Keith Davis,
Okay.
and it was a beautiful wedding. Back then, weddings were a lot more simple, and the girls had hot pink long dresses with long sleeves and high collars, kind of like a Victorian style dress, and the guys had black tuxedos with pink cummerbunds, the hot pink cummerbunds.
Yeah.
And then the reception was in the fellowship hall, and it was cake and punch, the traditional. And so it was, and then our honeymoon was in, well, we went to Bloomington, but we were in Brown County most of the time. And that was kind of how things were then. You know, usually you took 2 or 3 days for a honeymoon, and then you got back to.
That'd be a nice one. Quiet.
It was wonderful,
It was.
and it was
Yeah.
in October, and it was beautiful. I'll never forget that. So
That's cool. How long have you been married now?
33, over
We're-
33 years.
That's good.
actually, we're coming up on
34.
in October. So
Wow. Yeah. What would you tell folks about him?
I would tell folks that he's a humble man, hardworking, and he has been described by members of the family and friends as the Rock. He is steady as she goes. He's the same today as he was 30 years ago and will be in the next 30 years. And dependable and quite funny in a dry sense, but quite funny. And he's always been a devout husband and father. And no mother of children could ever ask to have a husband and father that was more dedicated to, raising the children than this person sitting right here by me. He's a good father.
You got to come back. What would you say about her?
She's the same. She's a wonderful mother. She stayed home with the kids when they were smaller and did a great job raising them. I mean, because while I was at work and everything, but we did everything together. We weren't one to take separate vacations or anything like that. We did pretty much everything together, still do, and just grew with each other, I think. But it was important to us to raise our kids and to be there for them. That was important to both of us, so that was just what we wanted to do. But she's a wonderful mother and wonderful wife. She always supported anything I needed. She was there to support me.
You make a nice couple.
I think we do.
Good team.
I think we do.
Thank
Good
you.
team.
Thank you. One thing I might say is that I have probably gotten as much out of going to the military reunions as he has. It's hard for me to understand women who don't want to go with their husbands. It's not boring at all. I have made lifelong friends, I'm sure, with other wives, and it was important to me that I go because it's one of those things you had to be there. He couldn't come home and tell me what his experiences were at those reunions and have me get any of the same effect without being there. And I just wouldn't miss him for anything. So wherever he goes, I go.
That's good. That's good. Children?
We have 2 sons. And
Names and something about them, please.
Chris is our oldest. Just always was small as a child, but liked sports. I used to coach him in baseball and stuff, but when he's in high school, he ran cross country and played golf, did some things like that. Was always, he sort of wanted to be a journalist. Was on the school paper in high school. In fact, he was the editor and all that. Wrote for the Herald. And when he always wanted to go to IU, he was a big IU fan. Loved basketball, so he loved IU. So he applied, and when he got his admissions acceptance, he come in from the mailbox just running and jumping. And but when he got down there, I went with him to when he signed up for his classes. We weren't together. They had the parents go one place and the child the next, but I was down there with him all day. And on the way home, he said, "Well, I signed up for ROTC." I said, "Oh, you did?" And I didn't have a clue that he would.
Yeah.
And he graduated in '91, and the Gulf War had just, that was in January, February, March, I mean, there. Had a big effect on him. And so he got a degree in journalism and graduated from ROTC and was commissioned a second lieutenant. So he's now has 10 years in the Army. He's a major. He's been to Iraq. He's been a artillery battery commander in Iraq, and now he's teaching at the captain's career course in Fort Sill.
That's great.
So very proud of him. His wife is Rhonda. They met at IU, college sweetheart, and
met her in ROTC.
yes,
That's great.
she was in ROTC for a while. She had to stop for medical reasons, but so they've been a great team also. She loves being the wife of a military person. They have 3 children, Garrett, Jacob, and Jaden, and they have one on the way now. So
It's so exciting.
they're great family people.
You're
We're
too
proud
young to
of
have that many grandkids. It doesn't match.
So they're and our youngest is Brad. He's 2 years younger. He graduated in '93 from high school. He used to like to play Army all along. He always sort of liked that, and so when he went to ROTC, it didn't surprise us that much, I guess. But he went through ROTC and got a National Guard scholarship. So he went into the National Guard, and when he graduated, he was commissioned second lieutenant in the Guard. He had a full-time job. He was an accountant. He took accounting, and he was an accountant at Essex Wire and at Arvin Meritor down in southern Indiana, both those places, and was also a company commander in the National Guard. Infantry. And so then in 2003, he went over to Iraq as a company commander also. Spent a whole year over there. And that's where he got a Combat Infantry Badge. So we're real proud of both of them. He got married after he got back. He got engaged. He had been going with a girl before he left, and he got an R&R to Germany. She went over there and met him. They got engaged. And after he got back, they got married, and so they've been married almost 2 years now. So don't have any children yet, but they're both doing well. She's a teacher, and he's now actually working full-time National Guard in Indianapolis.
Okay.
So
Her name is Amanda.
yes,
Okay.
her name's Amanda.
And she got mentored by our other daughter-in-law, Rhonda, while the guys were in Iraq. It was a whole new thing for her.
Oh, I bet.
And
They emailed each other and things like
yes.
that. Talked to each other.
That there's a bond there now,
Mhm.
and so it was a tough year. And Brad asked us to help Amanda get a diamond because he couldn't find one while they were on R&R in Germany. And he didn't want his girl going around without a ring on while he was in Iraq. So we did the best we could. We just let her pick it out, and then we just paid for it for him. So
That's a good story there. Okay, when we stop, put another one in. You have a major and a lieutenant.
Oh, captain.
Captain,
Mm-hmm.
okay. And you're a sergeant.
Yeah.
Do they outrank you?
Oh, yes.
but
Quite a
not
bit.
Mom.
But not Mom. That's funny. Yeah, we went through that same thing with Virginia McLean. I mean, she was a captain, and her husband was a major, and I asked him about the rank, and she said no. And then we told her no, but Mom outranks everybody.
Yes. Yes.
Wow. Very proud of your children, I could tell.
Oh, yes.
Yes.
We are.
Yes, we are.
The family just continues on. I mean, you had this great family, your family.
Mm-hmm.
You make a great family here. You've got these grandkids that are just, I could just see the flow of that. And the
Yes.
world needs more of that.
Yeah. They're both have a strong faith. They're both active in their churches,
Yes.
and we are. And that just, when you have that, I think that makes everything else
It really does.
go together.
Makes all the difference in the world.
Mhm.
The men that both of our sons commanded, I feel like we're in great hands because they're men of faith, and they had the well-being of all their soldiers at heart all the time. And to my knowledge, neither one of the boys had any soldiers wounded or killed while they were in Iraq under their command. So that says something for you right there.
That was Dad. You know, I hear a lot of your story in that.
Yeah.
So you taught him well.
Mhm. They, they used to ask me stuff, and I think, I looked up to Dad. He was a hero to me, and I'm sure the boys have some of that too, and it's just, it keeps going. But, you always want to do the right thing. You want to, you don't want someone to be disappointed in you, and I'm real proud of the boys. They're both fine young
men.
men.
They're good men.
Now, you had an interesting job at Guide. I know you worked on a lot of different pieces of equipment. Is there any particular piece that you thought, wow, this is my masterpiece? This is what
I think my masterpiece, Phil Boone and I built a machine that assembled the newer truck taillights.
Okay.
And, not new anymore, but this was back in about 98, 97, 98. We built a big dial, and it was all automated. And it put everything together. It put the little thing that made the contacts, the little metal piece that made all the contacts in. It put the bulbs in. It assembled everything, and it was pretty tough to get running after we built it. I mean, there was a lot of debugging of it, but once we got it running good, it run great. And the general manager would come down and look at it and think it run great, and me and Phil and I we'd be all smiles because it was running good, and it was fun building it, and it was fun getting it running, and that was probably the most intricate thing that I worked. I worked on a lot of stuff, but that's something that sticks out to me a little bit.
Yeah.
I think that truck dial.
That's neat.
It was pretty neat, fun building.
Now, did any of that carry over into retirement? Do you do any similar type things?
Yes, actually. When I found out we knew we was going to get an offer because they didn't want us there anymore,
Right.
the new owners. And so I got friends of ours. She is the secretary of a real small company just outside of Frankton. And somebody had been laid off from Guide, had worked there for a little bit while he was laid off. And they told the owner about me. They said, he's probably going to retire, and he'd be a good guy to get for part-time because he was going to need a machinist and somebody. So when he found out I was retiring, he invited me out for an interview. So I said, well, I'll go out there, And I went out, and he made me a great offer right off the bat and wanted me to come work for him. And that was in September of '99, right after I retired, and I'm still there.
Oh, that's great.
I work 2 to 3 days a week. If I want to be off, he lets me off. If I want to go in at 8 o'clock or 9 o'clock, doesn't matter to him. I do machine work for him, like run mill and lathe or something, and also do a lot of assembly of the machines. We build electrostatic coating equipment, powder coating and liquid coating.
Yeah.
And so it involves a lot of nozzles and things like that. And a lot of it's different than I worked on before, but I can do a lot of the plumbing work for it. Got a lot of experience in that, and just assembly, mechanical assembly and things. And so I'm still doing a lot of, somewhat similar work. And it's a job I've been looking for all my life. I can go in when I want, go home when I want.
Yeah.
If I only want to work 2 days a week, I can work 2 days a week. If I want 3 or 4 weeks off, I take 3 or 4 weeks off. He has sent me to Holland for some business.
Huh.
And I got to go to Germany while the kids were there when I did that.
Oh, that's nice.
He sent me to Texas, where else?
Chattanooga,
Chattanooga,
New
New York,
Michigan.
Michigan. I've been all over on little trips to, install machines or work on them or something. And so it's been a great retirement job.
And if you get laid off, big deal.
Yeah.
That's the nicest part.
Well, and he's had a couple slow times, and maybe I wouldn't work for a month or two. That's okay. I got mowing to do and landscaping to do. So it's been good.
Is there anything in your life that you've not gotten around to doing that you always wished you could have done?
Let's see.
Money's no option. You got perfect
I
health.
would have liked to learn to fly, I think.
Yeah.
It never was a burning desire, or well, I would have probably done it, but would have sort of liked to have done that. I would like to go to Hawaii sometime. We've both talked about that. Sometime we might try to do that, because that's something. I never thought I'd cared much about going to other countries, but when our son was in Germany, we went over to see him several times. So we got to travel in Europe some.
Yeah.
So that was neat. I don't know if there's anywhere else we want to go or not, but
Sherman's March to the Sea, remember?
Yeah.
We kind of liked
we've
it.
done a lot of Civil War battlefields.
Ah,
we
okay.
like history. We both like history. Our kids liked history when they were kids. Where some people would go to the beach or Myrtle Beach or Florida, we would go to Gettysburg and Fredericksburg and
Washington, D.C.
Appomattox Courthouse, Washington, D.C. We went to places like that a lot, and the kids loved it. So
Now, when you went to Gettysburg, did they still have the tower?
yes,
Because they've torn it down since then.
have they?
Yeah,
Or when
they said
we
it was
were
an
there,
eyesore, didn't fit in. But
Yeah,
Oh,
I
my.
remember getting up there
yeah.
early one morning,
Mm-hmm.
and I went by myself that time, and I looked out over the battlefield
Mm-hmm.
where they had that last
Taking the
charge,
charge.
Mm-hmm.
and you could almost see them coming
Yeah.
across that field.
And I've got the two places, the clump of trees, you know, and also where the Lee statue is. You look at both them places and you can look out the field from
Can see
the
it.
opposite end, and you can almost hear the battle. I'm serious. I mean,
Yeah.
you look out and it's quiet, and you can almost just hear the battle.
Yeah.
In the evening,
it's-
the
it's
haze
just-
that
it's
starts
just,
to form across the fields.
You know,
It's
I've been
it's
up on
almost like a religious experience or
it is.
something to
It's
go
spiritual.
It
there.
was for me.
And
and
our children.
Been up on Little Round Top and look
Yeah.
over and it's just
How many times did we go there with the kids?
oh, we've been to Gettysburg probably at least 3 or 4 times with them.
People that know us were not
Yeah.
shocked at all that the boys would choose the military. But we were shocked, but no one else was.
Yes. Have you seen the wall or the traveling wall?
Yes, both.
Oh.
We took when we went to D.C. with the kids. That was probably in the 80s. We've all been there a few years, and I went there, and that was a pretty emotional time because I found some names, took some rubbings, and
Danny.
Danny
Danny.
found him first, and
That had to be hard.
yeah, that was a tough time, and I'm sure the kids that affected them too because of how I reacted, and we've been back a few because they actually have our Mobile Riverine Force Association goes there every Veterans Day, and they'll have some hotel rooms saved. So we've been there a few times on Veterans Day, and we go to the wall and we lay a wreath and get with some friends. And so we've been there probably 3 or 4 different Veterans Days, just 2 of us.
Powerful stuff.
And it's powerful every time we go. But it's always with George Harrington and his wife's been there with us a few times, and Ron Wallace and Judy Wallace, and trying to think who else has been there with us.
Mike.
Mike
And
and
Vicky.
Vicky, Richie, and I think Steve Lawyer. They went with us once, I think. But the reunions have been. We didn't know about any reunions until I think it was 92 or 93. I happened to be looking in my, I think it was American Legion magazine or something, and they always have reunions in there. And I would always look in there. And I saw the Mobile Riverine Force, 9th Division, Navy. And so I got the number and called them. They sent me some information. And it was in Chattanooga, Tennessee. Was that 93, maybe? I don't know. And so I talked to Mike Ritchie, told him about it. So him and his wife, they went down there too. So we all went down to Chattanooga. And that's when we didn't see anybody we knew the first day or two. And we were having a buffet dinner, and we were going through filling our plates, and I looked across from me. We all had name tags. And I saw B Company 3rd of the 47th. And I looked, and it was Jesse Loya, and he was somebody that had been in my platoon the whole time. And so we looked at each other about the same time, and we recognized that this is somebody I remember, you know. And he had never seen, he had, as his first reunion, he hadn't seen anybody either. So that was really neat. And so we hung around together, and then was it the next night? They had a big banquet, and General Fulton, the brigade commander, was there, and General Bulldog were both there, sitting at one of the head tables with their wives. And so after the meal and everything, people were standing around talking and stuff, and so we went over there and was just sort of listening to them. And General Fulton's wife noticed us. Her name's Nan, and she's about as gracious as like a first lady.
She reminds
She
me
is
of
a
Nancy
She's a
Reagan.
neat lady.
Wonderful person.
And so she said, "Do you guys want to talk to Bill and them or something?" I said, "Well, we don't want to bother them. We just was listening to some of the things, stories that's telling." Said we were in their unit at Fort Riley, Kansas, went all the way,
Yeah.
through with them and everything. And she said, "Oh, he'll want to talk to you. He'll want to talk to you." So she went and got him and got General Boldock, and we got to talking, and we sat there with him and talked to him for probably over an hour that night. And since then, all the reunions, when we're all there, we always get together and talk. In fact, we went to see General and Nancy Fulton at their home in Washington.
been
They live
there.
in Washington, D.C. He retired. He was the
They live in
chief of
Arlington.
staff of the Fort Myers there
Right.
at Washington. He was the chief of staff there at 3-star general when he retired. So they retired right there in Arlington. So we usually call him or go see him. He passed away in January right after my mother did this year.
Was like
But,
losing.
It was almost like losing a father
Mm.
to me. It really was. Because since that was 93, in the last 12 or 13 years, I've got with him several times, and he has told us so much that we didn't know about it as being lowly, privates or sergeants.
So
or
from a
anything.
very different perspective.
So he's told us so many things, and he told us, he said, "Now, you guys were at the reception station quite a long time, weren't you?" I said, "Well, how'd you know that?" And he says, "Well, when we were going to start this unit up, reactivate it, we said, we're going to have too many young draftees." I said, how's this going to work? They says, "Well, we're going to let you pick. You can go through all the scores of all the soldiers that's coming into all these reception stations around the United States, and you can have the top 50 or 100 or whatever it is from each one. You take your pick, whoever you want." And he said, that's what we did. He said, we got the cream of the crop, the best and the brightest, I guess you'd say, of each one. And that, Mike Ritchie and I, we just looked at each other and said, we knew we were a good unit and we did our best and did a good job, and now we know some of the things that led up to it. And we thought that was really
That's
neat.
nice.
We
yeah.
thought that was really something.
Tell them the one funny story about when they called y'all in to have the.
Oh yeah,
Oh.
we was just about ready to graduate from basic, and we were about the end of the basic, and we'd been through a lot, and they brought us in there one evening. We was all tired, wanting to go to bed, and they brought about probably 20, 25 of us in there, and they said, "Okay, you guys, we think you guys are officer material. We want to give you guys a chance to go to OCS." And they explained some things, and they said, we said, "Well, will we still get out of the Army on time, or will we have to stay long?" "Oh, you have to go to this OCS, which is 10 months or a year or something like that, and then you'll still have 2 or 3 years after that. So
Yeah.
it's going to be about 4 years." And so we all got up and walked out. And I think it was a sergeant or a young second lieutenant or something. He said, "You guys are going to Vietnam. You guys are going you guys better reconsider." We all walked out. Not one person stayed. And we told General Fulton about that later, and he got such a kick out of that. He said, "That's you guys." He said,
You'd have gone anyway. It would have been 4
"Yeah,
years
we
later.
were going anyway."
Yeah.
That's funny. That's
Yeah.
funny. What we got left?
Oh, we got
Oh.
23 minutes.
Okay.
If you don't mind, I'd like to hear the story going to see Danny's mom from your perspective, because you saw it kind of from a different angle. That had to be kind of a tough situation.
That day, it was a real pretty day, about like it was today. It was real sunny, and we had a little bit of trouble locating her address, but we finally found her. And I'll never forget, she opened the door, and it was this old woman, about like our parents, and I guess I didn't really know what I was expecting, but and she was a very sweet-natured person, and she welcomed us in and all that, and we just kind of chit-chatted for a little bit, and then she started asking some questions, And she wanted Rod to kind of tell her what had happened the day he died. And so I watched him and I watched her as he was telling how that day unfolded and you know what led up to his being wounded. And when he was telling that, he was kind of looking up, and it was like he was just recalling everything. You could just see it in his face. And she was watching every little thing. You know, she never took her eyes off his face. And after he finished telling about what happened that day, she started telling about what happened after that, when they got the news that Danny had been killed, and how long it took before his body finally arrived back in Indianapolis. And he was accompanied by, I don't know what rank, but it was a soldier, and he was in his, you know, dress uniform and everything. He stayed with them the entire time until the funeral was over and everything. And the time at the funeral home, he stood with her at the casket because her husband, who was Danny's stepfather, he was not in very good health when at the time that Danny got killed. I think he was still living though, wasn't he?
I think so.
And but anyway, that soldier was assigned to stay with them through the whole thing. And every time she would try to get close to the casket, she wanted to just touch him. He wouldn't let her. And that led her to assume that he was missing an arm or something. He had gloves on and everything, and she couldn't tell if he was missing any limbs or digits or anything. And so she was so completely relieved when Rod told her that he was not missing any arms or legs or anything. And it just tore at me what she had been going through all those years, what she thought her only, and he was her only child, what she had gone through, thinking what her son had endured and all that. And I kind of felt bad that she had gone all those years thinking that, but I think that the time was right when we went to tell her and to have that meeting with her. And it was he was deathly sick with a sick headache after we got done with that. He held it together, and as soon as we left, it was very emotionally draining. We were both worn out from it. And we did find his grave. She told us where he was buried in the cemetery, but she wasn't able to go with us. And we did find it. And
where was he? Where is he buried?
It's in Indianapolis. It's is it Floral Park or something like that?
something like that.
It's just on the west side. If you go around 70 through on the south side of the dome and all that, you know, at Holt Road, you know about where that is probably.
Yeah.
Okay, if you go north there on Holt Road, and then it's in that area right in there. I think it's Floral Park or something like that.
It's an
But
older.
I think I could find it.
It's an older cemetery, but it was very well maintained. It was beautiful, and you know, we found it. But that was really tough. And then after that experience, when our boys were gone in Iraq, oh my gosh, I was thinking, I hope I never have to go through what that lady went through. And so, not that I'm special and I should never have to go through something like such as that, but I prayed that I didn't have to go through what she did, and fortunately, we didn't. So, but that was I'll never forget that experience
No,
as long as I
forget that
live. Never.
She's since passed away.
Yes.
Actually, was last year's reunion.
Mm-hmm.
Danny's uncle came with
Mm-hmm.
Mike McGuire, that had been a good friend of them. Came to the reunion, and I talked to him quite a bit too. And he was really glad to get to talk to somebody.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and so, see, she had remarried, so she had a different last name. So I didn't have any way to find her. Really, I didn't know what her last name was.
Mm-hmm.
So I just never had found her until
Mm-hmm.
I got with Mike, and then he said, "Yeah, I know who she is." I said, "I see her every now and then, you know." So
He
Amazing
finally.
how God puts all these things
Yes.
together.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
yeah,
And we didn't even know where he was until we saw him at a military reunion.
yeah,
And
he's on the south side of Indianapolis.
yeah.
Lives
oh,
pretty close to where our younger son does.
Oh,
mhm.
So
So
mhm.
it all came together. You know, once we found him, then he was able to help us find her.
And reunions have been they've been wonderful, because I've seen a lot of guys and met other guys that we were about the same places and maybe in a different company and didn't really know each other much then, but we've become friends since. So it's been, you know, we're friends with a Navy guy.
Mm-hmm.
He was in the Navy. I didn't know him then, but he's in Carmel, and we've become friends with them.
And he was one of the he drove the, I don't know if that's what you do, drive a boat up the
Yeah, he
rivers
had
and
one
let
of
the soldiers
He was on one
out.
of the boats, so you know,
Mhm.
I didn't know him then, but we've met since, and the reunions are just they've been great. I think
Mhm.
it
they've
sounds
helped me a lot.
more like a World War II reunion group than it does a Vietnam
Yeah,
reunion
well,
group.
you know, because
that's good that you
we're
have that.
we're all
Mhm.
50s and 60s now.
Yeah.
Mhm.
I mean, and Dad
It has
didn't-
more of the flavor of that as
Yes.
opposed to Vietnam.
And I
guys
think
getting
it's
Most
because
Vietnam.
a lot of us, we went over as a unit, trained as a unit, and
Yeah.
was together quite a bit.
Made a difference.
And there's a few of them that they don't want anything to do with them, but
Yeah.
you know, that's them. But they've been a help for me, and we really met some great people again. You know,
Mhm.
knew them when they was 20, and now almost 40 years later,
Mhm.
Probably the hardest image of that war was that last helicopter taking off from the embassy.
yeah.
Mhm.
See, that's been hard for all of us since then, because it was like the job did not get done like it should have. And I just saw something. I listened to WGNR a lot, Christian radio station, and they tell about the Voice of the Martyrs, and they just this week they had a family in Vietnam that are they're Christian, and they've been they burned their church, and they have to meet in somebody else's home. They have to hide. It's still going on there, and so it's people have forgot it and think, well, they're a country now, they're okay. But it's, you know, there's still a lot of bad things happening. So, you know.
Ho Chi Minh was a gangster.
Yeah.
I know that from a guy who actually spent time with him.
Mhm.
Yeah.
He wasn't a patriot.
No,
No.
not at all.
Not at all.
Not at all.
No.
Well, we always give our veterans a chance to say a few words for posterity. You got any words of wisdom you like to share with folks?
Yeah, I don't know. I just, I thank God for the life I've had. You know, I've had a lot more good things happen to me than bad.
Yes, you have.
And I just thank the Lord for everything, all the blessings He's given us. He's given me 2 wonderful children, several grandchildren, maybe more to come, and I just thank God for Janine.
Mm-hmm.
It's been here with me. It's been a good ride.
That's about as good